How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another Thursday Swordsfall stream. Me, Swordsfall, to call Brandon by so many things at this point. It's kind of like whatever to me. People kind of ask me like what I prefer to go by. I guess I'll put that to bed. I mean, I don't mind. Call me Brandon. That's my real name. I'm still in that spot where like it's hard for me to get used to people knowing my name that I don't know. So if you see me in a con, you're like Brandon, don't be surprised if I'm like. It's that weird reaction, you know. Well, yeah, some people call me Swordsfall. It's kind of funny. I don't mind it. Whatever. Swordsfall guy, I get called on occasion. That's funny too. To call is normally like my game handle once upon a time, but we're getting to the point it's about to be retired because that has actually always been the name of one of my characters in Swordsfall back when it was ethereal. And I just started using it as a game handle because I thought it's never gonna happen, right? And now that I'm literally getting to the point where soon you'll be reading about the adventures of like Takal and the rest of the group, it's gotten kind of weird being called that because I don't want people to think that like I put myself in the book. I mean, technically everything is me in the book, but like I didn't personify myself in the book like that. So, okay. So, what's up, everybody? Thanks for the follows, everybody. Thanks for the follow. Rolled Earth. I almost said like Rolled Darth, but then I realized. What's up? Thank you for the follow, Fayed. Thank you for the follow, Glass Beach Band. That actually sounds like a dope band name. Glass Beach. I'm here for it. Let me know when you drop the EP. Thanks for the follow, Merfeather. I appreciate it. Woo! Thursday stream. Thank you. I don't know if anybody does this, but can I get a quick shout out for like my mods? Simply Emily has been someone who just kind of showed up one day as a fan and was like, yeah, I can help you mod. And I'm like, thank you, please. And has just always been awesome. Shows up, mods, does excellent. Just a cool person. So quick shout out to the mod. I feel like people don't really do that. And I appreciate mods because people get crazy. First line of defense. Always love it. What's up, CA Burt? How are you doing today? Thanks for the follow, S&D Works. Sounds like a deep cover operation, right? Henley words, Mo Deep style. Love it. Good afternoon, Vinkman. How's it going? Vinkman Wayland. Love it. What's up, Notch? How's it going? Velociraptor. Yeah, I do like that title. I'm not gonna lie. I really do. I wear a name tag at work and it's still weird for me when people call me by name despite the tag. Yeah, that one always got me. It's like, how do you know my name? Thanks for the follow, Third Mic Whisper. Thanks for the follow, My the Mouse. And thank you for the follow, GM0258. It's about time. Thank you for getting an album out on streaming services. Oh, legit? Legit? Okay, yeah, definitely drop that. I'm all about it. I know like people get weird about stuff. My thing is don't show up to stream to be like, hey, come to my stream, guys. Like that's a little weird. If I know you and you show up a lot and you interact and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go stream, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm the kind of person I shout out friends and cool peeps. If I feel like you're trying to use me, I don't like that. I understand life is about using, but like at least make it seem like it's data. You know what I mean? Busy viz, however you want to say it. But yeah, always love music. I'm always a big fan of music. And Glass Beach Band sounded like a band name, and I was like, it's a dope band name, so I'm actually pleased about that. Could you do me a favor? I know there's a whole bunch of you that are also in the Discord. Can you drop that in the music Discord so I can check it out later on? Because you know me in music. Mods need lots of love. Agreed, Step A. How's it going, Step A? Damn, I need to clean those numbers out. Much respect. Damn, all I see is multiple good work mods. Now I'm mad I was late to take it out the trash. Which, gotta give a shout out to my other mod, Anno, who did a fantastic job the other day. Like 3 days ago, we had someone being all ridiculous, and Anna was just like, da 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 da. Actually, like, I like it with people who actually, but they're like, my actually people, because it's like, actually, you have no idea what you're talking about. My favorite kind. So yeah, shout out to the mods. Okay, let's get into this because I have words. I think I don't know how many people are on Twitter. I assume a lot of you on Twitter because I know that's how I get a lot of. I think most people saw this whatever weird poll that was going on yesterday and to drop a whole bunch of racist ass term. I'm not repeat that. It's just dumb. Like, you know what I mean? Like the fact that someone could sit there and write that out on a post and put it out there. Come on. And so of course then you have people who are like, well, I'm trying to be historically accurate because historically, and that really drives me. And it's something I've heard a lot of all my life. But now that I'm actually in a position where I can write and somehow I have like some mini authority, I'm like, cool, now I can talk about the subject again and people will actually listen to me. Because racism, codifying in your game or your story is kind of bullshit. I'm gonna be real. It's kind of bullshit. Quote me in that. It's kind of bullshit, right? If your story has that as a purpose and you as a writer sat down at the beginning and was like, racism is a crux to my story and I have a story to tell, then fine. You will still be judged on the fact that you put racism in there, but if your goal is to actually work through it in some way that is actually interesting or cathartic and not just rehashing the same stuff, then yeah. I'm gonna be real. I'm still probably gonna pass on it. Me personally, I'm just kind of over it. Like, I live that in my life. I don't really need to escape to a magical world, see the same stuff, only written by people who don't actually understand it, which is usually what the crux of the issue is. People want to write in racism but don't actually understand racism. I don't care how many books you've read. I don't care what you've read or what you studied. If you were not a minority in a majority world, you do not understand. You see the vestiges of it, you see the effects to it, but you don't see the inner part. You don't see the inner working. And I think especially one thing that drives me is because I can tell especially, and I know people hate it, but it's true, but you can really tell especially when the author is white. And I say that because white people have a tendency to look at racism in a way that they think is being educational and being worldly, but what they don't realize is that they're stepping outside of it and looking down at it. That is and always has been the position of white supremacy. It's really about feeling like you're not involved in things and that you get to look down on something. It's not always about the sense of I'm better than you. Sometimes the I'm better than you just comes from, oh, well, that's not my problem. If it's a human problem, it's kind of all of our fucking problems. And trying to say that you are better than that and outside of that is the supremacy part. You have excluded yourself from understanding how to fix the issue and how to grasp the issue by making yourself outside of the issue. And it doesn't work like that. You can't improve things unless you're inside of it. That's just how it works. And people don't want to get their feet dirty, and that's the problem. You have to get your feet dirty. And they're like, oh, but racism is ooh. It's like, yeah, that's the point. That's the point. If you actually get into racism and you play and you realize it kind of sucks, and there's really no redeeming value. And you can only see that when you are on the outside because your feet are dry. It just doesn't work like that. And that's why I was actually trying to find a statistic, and I wasn't able to find the statistic. I found the article about it. But statistically, black writers and just writers of color, period, when they write about stuff, they are always more inclusive. They don't just write all stories about their one culture. They tend to add in other cultures. They tend to be more inclusive because they understand what that means. They understand it's not just a choice. It's how you make a world that feels real, that feels good in a cathartic way, and not just well, I mean, we're doing good stuff and ignore all the bad stuff, but ha ha ha, you guys, you're the exceptions. And that's always the issue. Outside of that, what I want people to realize is that codifying racism, especially in a game, isn't being historically accurate, is being historically lazy. And that is two different things. Because people don't seem to want to understand that racism is not a human element. Discrimination is, but racism requires power. Racism comes from the top and not from the bottom. When it's a person having an issue with another person, that is discrimination based on what X person doesn't like about Y person. That in itself does not institute racism, and that's the problem. People who haven't felt systematic racism don't understand that it's not one person versus another person. Oftentimes, when it comes to racism, the issue that person has with you isn't even discrimination because it's not even their issue. It's an issue they were given from someone else, and that someone else is the state, your anonymous state. It doesn't have to be US, it's just whatever that body function is that has a loud enough voice to say what it wants and to have enough power to institute that. Enough to where the average random person, without having any actual qualifying event, believes it, or at least goes along with it. You don't get that without power. And in our history of the world, which if people really honestly really want to sit down and read about it, racism didn't just randomly pop up. It's one person had an issue with one person and decided to use that as an excuse to do stuff. Racism doesn't exist in a bubble. Racism comes with corruption because they use racism usually to hide other stuff. They don't actually care about that stuff. If you look at the people who complain the most about race, people who are either like KKK or whatnot, is their problem actually black folks? It's never actually black folks. It's actually that they are poor and that they have been told that black people is their issue. It is not. The issue is that the person above you kept 90% of your money. That's the issue. It's time and time again. Once again, I hate to talk about them because Nazis just suck, but same thing with Nazis. The issue wasn't actually Jewish people. They used it as a ploy to get people on their side, and it was a really good ploy, and they realized, oh shit, we can cash this shit infinitely. We can cash this, we hate Jewish people as many times as we want to, and however we want to, because once you've realized that you get people by this sense of a group, an innocuous group that is so big and so vast that you can't actually verify it, you can do whatever you want. As long as you give them carrots for basically believing this stuff, oh, people will go with it forever. And we've seen that. And that's the stuff that people don't get. That's the stuff they're not writing in. Sure, they want to write in the fact that Group A hates Group B, but they never sat down to be like, but why though? And I go, well, everybody? Since when in history of time does a whole group of people just suddenly agree? It never happens like that. Everything has a crux. It's why we talk about things like influencers and people like that. It's why we really care about who says what, because we know that opinions come from the top down. And power is a liquid thing. Power doesn't always mean I'm the king, I have the power. Sometimes it's just a celebrity or someone whose voice or tone has resonated with enough people to where they feel good about giving up that agency to that person. Because that's what you're doing. Like when you follow someone, either be a celebrity or a politician, and you take their word without verifying it, you're giving up that agency. And that's not a knock, because we do that all the time. In our society, we build upon things based on the fact that someone told us that XYZ. We don't have time to verify every single XYZ someone tells us. That's the whole purpose of experts. So that we can say, cool, I can trust that you say XYZ and you really took the time to make sure it's XYZ, right? Because I don't, and I can't even get the knowledge to get all that stuff, right? That's how racism really works. Someone with that power, who you've given an agency, who you've kind of put as an expert, said, hey, these people suck, and let me give you these reasons. And what people don't realize is that they've already kind of opened themselves up to accepting that, because this person's voice, this person is authority, they say it, cool, it sticks. And that's the danger of power with that stuff. When you don't have power, it's just this person doesn't like this person. And the beauty of a 1v1 discrimination is there's other people around. So other people, if they have not had that racist ideology, they get to evaluate the situation without any implicit bias. So they go, man, well, why are you hating on them just because they have red hair? That's silly. And that's how we've always gotten past certain things, when we have enough people outside of that bubble that go, but really though, is red hair actually the sign of the devil? I mean, like, but really though? But like, we have like a whole country of redheads over here and it's fine. And people are like, what? You're like, yeah. And that's the whole purpose of why diversity matters. It's not just because you need this checkbox of this person. It's because you don't know the implicit biases that come with your group. You need someone outside of that view to remind you of that. But you also have to be willing to go, oh, yeah, the thing we do, we never actually questioned why we did that. And now that you pointed that out, yeah, we can change that. And what usually happens is someone who's powerful, a singular person, goes, I don't want to change it. And I'm putting my foot down and know my power behind it, and we ain't changing shit. And that makes people have to choose. And When people don't have a vested reason in defending something, they usually go on with the flow, right? And that's the problem. People don't have a vested reason in getting rid of racism. People talk about it and they say it's bad and whatnot, but when you challenge them, when they have to make a decision, when they have to choose a philosophy that says be better but doesn't give an immediate kudos, an immediate carrot, it hits different. Then they go, well, I mean, my life, well, I mean, I like this, well, I mean, my... And that's the stuff that keeps it going. And that's why I don't like why people codify racism in creative writing, because 90% of the time they miss all the underlying things that prop up racism. They water it down to X group doesn't like B group because of some silly thing, so that you, person C, can feel superior to them all and go, ha ha ha, don't they know tieflings aren't bad? But it doesn't matter. You put it in your game. Put in your game that a whole group of people hate this other group of people for this really ridiculous and inane reason. And that's what happens when you codify reason. You've essentially said this whole group of people are stupid. Right? If racism is invalid and you make a whole group of people racist, you've made them ignorant. You've made a whole mass of people ignorant to the point of violence. That's stupidity no matter how you cut it. So if you're okay with making your main country full of stupid asshats, okay, if that's your point. But if that's not your point, then you should redress that, because conflict does not require racism. And maybe that's just a sign of the fact that we haven't spent our imagination lately and that we're bored, or just not even out of ideas, but we've hit the same well so many times ago. Is there anything else? There is something else. You can make other stuff. Individual conflict is really juicy, y'all. You don't have to make it to a whole group of people don't like one or the other. If you want to show the complexities of people, you can show that in a whole bunch of ways, but usually people don't want to, because somewhere in there, you see yourself in that. What really happens is most people choose one side or the other for their own personal vested reasons. Because if you want to be real, you want to be real, humans like to be in a group, but only as much as it serves them. And that's why we have cultures and subcultures, because we go, this general culture isn't serving me anymore. Where's my people like me? Oh, hey, person like me. Hey, let's go over there. Let's get some other people like us, because we find that cathartic. Like, we want validation. Those are the vestiges of human emotion and stuff like that should we be playing with if you really want to be real. Because that's what we really see in real life. And I say that we know that racism is bullshit because pick the most racist person, put them in a situation where they need someone of color, and watch their whole mood change. Because it's bullshit. And they know it's bullshit. But it's handy bullshit, so why not? Why not roll with it? No one's called me on it. I don't have to change anything. Whatever, it works for me. And everybody around me agrees with me, right? That's also why I'm a big believer in saying something. And I know people don't like it because I seem like but I've realized over my short life that as long as people feel they can get away with something, they'll get away with it. And sometimes you just have to be the person to be like, not everybody agrees with that opinion. I just want you to know that I think this is a shit opinion. And if you respect me, know that the person you respect thinks that your opinion is shit. So simmer on that. And they don't have to, but damn, at least you put it out there. At least you were real about that. So that they just can't go around saying these things thinking that everything's okay. They can go and say those racist things and know for a fact that you, friend, that they say they respect, thinks it's terrible. And that makes them have to make that choice. And if they don't want to, that's on them. But still, it is what it is, you know? I should read these comments because I see so much stuff and I want to talk about this stuff. One of these days I'll learn how to like rant and also read comments, but I get into my head and I think. I hate the my historical accuracy argument, low that it's my least favorite thing in the planet. People need to stop watching Westerns and thinking it's historical fact. Bro, man, we might talk about the chili, how Westerns is, and I actually read a paper about this in college because, you know, my minor was Japanese history. I was really in it for the philosophy. I'm gonna be real about that. But like, I read an article that was basically talking about how the reason why Americans, like, because this was like what, early 2000s, so it was like they're talking about how like Americans are really getting to the whole blending like Western, Eastern, the samurai, cowboy, and they were talking about how in essence it's the same thing because they're both important periods of time, but they've taken these kind of class of people, cowboys and samurais, and made them seem wholly good when in reality they were very mixed bag with a whole lot of being a dick. But hey, it's funny to think that it was like this and remove all the problems. And since no one questions it, it just becomes fact. But it's not fact. It's fiction. Historical fiction, you know? Until anyone claims historical accuracy doesn't know actual history. True, Ovi. Yup. All the time. All the time. Can't clean pig shit without getting in there with a damn shovel. Gotta get dirty to get clean. These have a very whitewashed view of history. Yep. And they don't like being challenged on it either. And that's the thing, you gotta be willing to challenge this stuff. You can't grow without accepting the fact that there are some things that are wrong. I'm gonna get through the comments and I want to talk about some stuff because I know it's gonna be something that people don't like, but I think we have to address the fact that, like, especially white content creators need to embrace what it means to be white and try to find the positive ways in it. Because I feel like a lot of the reasons we're getting this weird preparation is because you think you don't have culture. You're trying to go to other wells for creativity because you're ignoring what you have. Because it is covered in some stuff, but like I want to see people start taking that shit off. Like anyway, we'll get into it. I really want to read through these comments. Minority's right, majority's far better than the majority. Well, right, a minority. Yep. You have to know it for survival, and you hear that a lot. White people think you can put racism in a box and easily quantify it, but you can't do that. Nope. It's a virus in a way. It spreads, like you can't control it. Like a GOP, like they build something that they can't always control, so they're just trying to cattle, you know, cats basically, herd cats all the time. And it. Thanks for the bits, Harbinger. I appreciate it. Embrace and support anti-racism in games. Agreed. Agreed. What's up, Bogus Meat Factory? Welcome, welcome. Got it for till May 6th, but for less than ideal reasons. But hey, more time to finish my degree. Ugh, that's rough, but hey, get that knowledge. What's up, Nat1 Nerd? How's it going? Scalable dehumanization for money. I like that phrase because that's literally what it is, and you can watch it in real time. Like we've been watching in real time over the past couple. Been, I'd say dizzying, but it should be more enlightening. Like you said, racism is lazy writing. Yep, everybody is never everybody. Exactly. It's especially frustrating in fantasy worlds because they'll put it in and say, but it's evil and we fight against it, so it's okay. But they don't actually fight it. They just punch the big bad evil guy and they're like, and then the elves and dwarves live in harmony, and it's like, no, that's not how shit works. Exactly. And it gives people a false impression of the work that has to go into making this stuff be better. Because there is no magic one size fits all final boss Deus Ex Machina, kill them and everybody gets to go back to how it was. That's not how it works. There's fallout. The fallout lasts for a long time. It's generational sometimes. Power is liquid makes me picture the scene in Dark Knight Rises where Bane asks, and this gives you power over me. Yeah. I know people have like mixed opinions about Dark Knight Rises, but the way they tried to write Bane as more of less of a physical power and more of a mental power, I actually really appreciate it. I didn't quite pick it up all the way until like the second or third watch through. Be real, I've watched it 4 times. But like especially in his speech, like once you really crunch it over, you realize like he's telling how he took that experience, that negative, to make it power, to make that the core of his power, and that once he grabbed that power, once he grabbed the fact that he was born in darkness, it was something that you can't take away from him. Which I thought was a really cool like interpretation of Bane, because he's always been kind of like that, but they've leaned more into the Venom. But some other time, some other stream, because you know me, I got thoughts on that shit. That is truth right there. One of my favorite quotes in the subject is, fantasy races are a fantasy about race. Put that shit on a shirt. That is the truth. Oof. Oof. Perspective is so important. I mean, shit. Think of the BS racism between dwarfs and elves. Why do they hate each other? No one ever has a reason besides lazy writing and wanting conflict with no work. In essence, I always felt like they would be the best of buddies because they're both technically like the older races on a world where it's technically run by like the brats. I'm not a fan of meta races, but if I was, I would play with some interesting stuff. I would have more of like a dwarf elf alliance because dwarves make things that live forever. Elves live forever, so like they'd have this cool elvish, dwarvish mix of. I wish people would just pay me randomly for like ideas. Be like, here's $50. Give me a hook. People are afraid to rock the dang boat when the boat needs to be rocked and rocked. Sometimes the boat just needs to be sunk the fuck over and get off and get a new boat because this boat's dead and the boat has a hole in it. Hate to be all radical, but sometimes you just gotta get a bigger boat. Why stick to one boat? That's why we have boat makers. You want to invest a reason. If that ain't some truth right there. Thanks for the follow, Hackworthology. I'll value a tangent made me think of like hackers. The seventh hacker in the hacker movie. Worthology. People are hesitant to dismantling systems that they benefit from. Yep. Because it feels like you're giving away power. And we feel so vulnerable when we don't have power. So we're like, but my things. I feel like power structures also greatly and unfairly reward folks in power, so when someone gets that, they immediately don't want to change it because of the benefits they reap. And that in itself, bogus, is part of what keeps white supremacy. I want to talk about this real quick before I go through the rest. Because sometimes I think people hear white supremacy and they think, oh, you're just saying white people in charge, and it's deeper than that. The problem with white supremacy is that it builds a false idea of what it means to be good. That it says if you do these things, you will succeed. But it does it in a very dishonest way, right? Because it removes the markers. It's like taking a plate that says white, removing the word white and saying, see, these are all the things that need to be good. And as things change, if there was anything that would be bad about said culture, they just wipe that off and then write something new good on it. And they sell that to not just people of their culture, but to other people, because that's really how power works. You can't just have people in your bubble. You need other people. That's how you, in a way, honestly, that's how you control other groups who might not inherently get that same messaging. But you go, cool, well, we have the power. And we say, if you want to be successful, you have to do these things to be good. Knowing that they can't do all those things because some of those things are inherent to white culture. So in essence, you're making people assimilate to live. Because you have the power to say, you can't have food, money, and this stuff unless you abide by these rules. And that essentially makes you have to assimilate. And that is kind of the thing that keeps white supremacy going, because even if that person, right, even if the person who started that sense of supremacy leaves, that image, that sense of who has power is still there. So someone just wants to fill the void rather than realize that all the things they created were in essence corrupt, need to be taken away. They go, cool, well, I want in that spot because they had all that power and all that stuff. Well, I want that. But because now there's an expectation of what that image is, you now have to mold yourself into that image. Right? And that's why we always have this issue of feeling like someone becomes corrupted once they get to a certain position. Because that position has itself its own image that you have to maintain to do these things. And that's the issue with white. And that's the danger of it, because it's not even so much that it's just about white people. In a large way, white supremacy no longer has to do directly with white people. It is history, as people keep bringing it up. Like, it's been so long that no one alive actively has to want to fight for it to exist, for it to still be a thing, you know? And that's kind of why it's important to change not just the people in power, but also the way you look at that power, also the way that you look at the things that came along with it, dismantling it as a whole, so that when someone else comes into it, it doesn't have to be that way. They don't have to change into this weird mockery of humanity, right? It's a complicated thing, but it's because humans themselves are complicated, right? We go through things by path of least resistance, and that's our trap always, right? And that's in essence what we're talking about when we say lazy, right? We're like, cool, path of least resistance, because Yes, and we do that hundreds of times a day. We pick the path of least resistance, and it's not even bad. But you do have to evaluate the situation and go, cool, is this my honest feeling? Is this actually how I feel? Or was this the path of least resistance? Sometimes you do have to be honest about that. Sometimes maybe you do have to adjust it. Sometimes you don't. But like you still have to recognize that. And that's kind of the issue with that power structure is it's molded in essence to only crown a certain set of people. And you have to bend yourself to take that crown. Why you don't become the Frost King. Just saying. Don't be the next Arthas. The next worst thing is the racial hats thing. Like maybe it's a personal pick here, but I feel like drow equals evil sort of things. Yep. And it just the whole evil race needs to go away, period. Because it's just no. Doc, wait, what? There's other sorts of conflicts? I really love interpersonal conflicts, and I try to write around them as much as humanly possible. Because that's where things get interesting. My old DM's girlfriend crafted a character who was specifically racist against Dragonborn. My character's race, by the way, because her family was murdered by them. I still don't have time to unpack that shit. Ooh, chili. Ooh, just throw the whole suitcase away. Drow came from evil people, and it's like, who said they were evil? People who wrote the history? Throw that whole shit away. Bad Chili, that reminds me of one of my friends who was playing in 40k game, likes to justify PvP and the like when he plays because the Space Marine, oh yeah, he has to go the other. He's like, hey, the Xeno, hype train, what's up? I appreciate it. I don't know what's going on over here. I'm still trying to crawl through. I love all the activity. I have no idea. I feel like it's a mini class. Self-criticism, key skill lost, truth. Thanks for the follow, bcat442. I appreciate it. People didn't correct me. I would never have grown to realize that was shit. I mean, not that you were shit, but like you inherited some shit opinions. As long as it preserves their way of life and keeps them from ever feeling they're in the wrong, folks really just don't intro. Also frustrating because it's always racism toward real life minority adjacent characters. Why do dark elves have to be the hated? Why did you pick the dark skinned race to be looked down to? Because at some point you have to ask, did I write this because of internalized racism? Did I not think the minority adjacent people could have been the ones in power? That's the whole, that's the in stream, that's it right there, boom, like, boom, you know? And you can see it in the way that people write it, because it's like, cool, you just coded these people as black, and then people are like, well, history, I'm like, well, you don't know how that feels, so it's easy for you to... That ain't it. No. Thank you for following Hera Hex, I appreciate it. Well, look at the NFL. Plenty of racists watch it, but if I told them their team could have one of two QBs and they were Mitch Trubisky or Cam Newton, not only do they pick Cam Newton, some of them pick him twice. But they'll love to sit there and tell you about how Cam's terrible and how he's not living his life right and how if only he did this, he'd be responsible. But man, they love to fucking go out there and be like, hey, go. I'm not gonna get on that because I could make some real parallels to NFL slaves. And I think we've all heard that. And sometimes it rings so true, I hate it. And I'm like, you know what? I forgot to do my captions. My bad, because I got captions. I just realized I hadn't actually hit captions on. And anyone worth their salt would take a comment of that's a shit opinion and go, hey, maybe it really should sit down and consider this position. Especially if you consider them a friend. We received a level 5 hype train email? What? I don't know what this hype train stuff is, but choo choo, bitch. Okay. I appreciate it, yo. I appreciate it. Oh shit, 7 subs, 10,000 bits? What? I don't even know what that means money-wise, but I appreciate it. I don't know shit about Twitch. I'm like, I got things to say. I ain't a platform, and there's not enough characters on Twitter. Actually, I need to make some more, like, emotes, some custom source file emotes. Anyway. And a lot of cowboys were Hispanic, what not whites. Exactly. That's something that like they try to drop on people that like most cowboys were actually minorities, like Hispanic and black people, because handling animals is actually seen dirty and clean, and most white people didn't really want to do it, and the white people who did it were also poor. So really, if anything, like cowboys and black people should be like BFFs. Did the same like shit, but you know, history. Funny how we're never historically accurate when I'm at. Westerns are a bit propaganda sometimes. It is a bit of like Westerns has filled a bit of Eurocentric lore, but for Westerns, it's the whole open plain, explore all you want to. There's no laws. I am the law. I can do what I want. There's plenty of automatic bad guys because bad guys were black or they're Indians. It makes it easy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Growing up, the only thing my family said was good about Westerns was that it meant a bunch of indigenous actors got a job for a weekend. Point. You know what really bugs me, though, is all of the racism built into the DD races. Like, orcs are aggressive and tribal and mature more quickly than humans. And oh, by the way, they usually have dreads and darker skin. Clearly no connection to anything in real life. It's just orcs. Orcs aren't black people. Don't you know, doctor? That's racist to say. I mean, so what if they carry all the different things that white people seem to associate with black culture? So what? So what if all the light races are like the best and heavenly and decently and divine? No. Someone in my party one time had a character that was totally black. It drives me, but that's why I don't do D&D. Yeah, and I try not to hate anymore because people get all mad. But that's why swords fall is swords fall. Yep, most cowboys are POC and black Hollywood whitewash cowboys. Yep, because they like the idea of it. Fetishization of an idea that they want to colonize them and make them white and the good guy. What up, Critical Bard? Probably one of my own points of contention with Final Fantasy 14, to be honest. Dusk White lenses in that game and universe get a lot of crap, and they tend to be very dry. Like, it sucks. That was the one thing I had to give it a negative about, was that one, which is why I was a little worried about how they were gonna do the all raw, but I was pretty pleased. But I had totally forgot about the Dusk White until you mentioned it, and it was true though. Negative 1 point to Final Fantasy 14 for that one. Joe liking the skin tone sense. I mean, nah, I know what you meant. There's no justification for why they were using racism. I was really eager to hear you talking about it. Yeah, and bullshit. Oh yeah, I'll explain it to you off Bunny about the Duskrite Elysian. It's a whole thing. Elves are always thin and white and blonde, and by the way, of course, they're super smart and ancient and so refined. Oh, except the dark elves, because they're naturally evil, of course. And of course, don't you know that? And in some of them, of course, you can turn one of the white elves to a dark elf, but they can't go back. Dwarves and elves should be the mom and dads of fantasy. Agreed. They're both older races and have love for expression and creation. They're just copying Tolkien's ideas where it was depicted the motivation for the grudge. And Tolkien's motivations have been picked apart a lot because there's some questionable stuff when it comes to how he justified it. So the fact that people just kind of copy paste it without questioning it, you should question Tolkien. You can love Tolkien, but you should question Tolkien. You should. So I'm going to say something and hear me out. The issue specifically is white people trying to propagate a white culture, because instead of enjoying their own individual active culture, they're just pushing up some sort of white race, which is just, is your skin light, and thus doesn't actually have anything. Spanish culture has cool shit, German culture has cool shit, French culture has cool shit. So I see where you're going with that, Anno. I'm going to lightly push back against that, because in a way, I think that some of the problem comes from the fact that white people have a hard time recognizing racism and oppression because they don't realize that, in a way, they and their culture have been oppressed in such a weird way that they don't have a concept of that base, right? Because what culture doesn't have something? The problem, if anything, has been that because white culture has been in the seat of power for so long, their bad actors get that power too. So their bad actors not only get to do bad in their small community, but they get to apply it to a worldwide angle. Because it's not like white culture is the only one that's had like crazy shit like genocide and stuff like that. It's just that no other culture has had such worldwide power and attention to where those things become precedents. And so sometimes I kind of feel bad because I feel like the things that have been good about white culture have been so adopted by bad actors that people feel like they can't touch them anymore, right? Like that has been corrupted. And I feel like maybe sometimes the way they write about race is a reflection of the struggles that they have in themselves, right? Because what does it mean to be white? And because there is no white culture, and you can't say white power because once again it's been adopted, what's your base? You know, so in a sense, white culture has become about multiple subcultures all battling for your white identity. And that's just my observation as like being like a black kid who's hung out with a lot of white people all my life. It always feels like there's some subculture of white America that wants to draft them to it. And that if you take on the title of whatever your subculture is and you are bound by their rules, damn it, you said you were punk, so these are the bands you listen to, I don't hear shit, or you're a poser and you're out of the group. You know what I mean? I feel like you just repeat that, you know, en masse in any subculture and white identity. And it's like, how do you find a sense of what it means to have culture when your culture can't even bond together without having to shit on someone? So it makes them feel, I think, in a way nomadic in a soul sort of way, right? And isn't that kind of the issue we have with insults, right? There are a lot of white kids who are lost, have no identity, and there's some shit ass who's sitting here with some convenient ideology that's watered down Marxism, thrown in with some Nazism, and they're like, hey, I can give you identity, right? And it's, in a weird way, they have to fight the same struggle that black folks did a while ago of having to figure out what's their identity when things are so fractured. And that's, not to get off on a topic, but that was like the struggle with gangs, because gangs was about small culture, but then it was people in power using that conflicts. And you have that same thing in white culture, but on a bigger scale, right? We're watching people like Trump have personal battles with other white people, right? And because they're so removed, we don't look at it like that. We don't look at it as white on white crime. We go, oh, look at these people. And that is itself the sort of impression that white culture has tried to impress, that it has nothing. Mainly because their most powerful people are split between bad actors trying to do bad and good actors who just trying to just not catch any flack, you know? So part of me has always wondered if things like appropriation can't end until white people can figure out a way to build a culture that's self-fulfilling, but self-fulfilling without needing to tear down anybody else or be superior than anybody. And in a weird way, it's the one privilege that minorities have, because since we exist in a power vacuum and we exist in a majority, we've been forced to, over centuries, figure out what our identity is. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has nothing to do with whiteness. You know? I think black culture becomes so intoxicating to other people because it was born solely out of a sense of strangers in a strange land whose original culture was stripped. So it had to make our own out of the stuff that we had, you know? So it's a survivalist sort of culture that we've made sexy. And I think people can identify with that, because who doesn't feel that their culture or something like that is broken, they want to do something. But instead of taking those lessons and figuring out a way how to reinforce their own culture, it becomes, well, I'm just going to make my subculture because I identify as nerdy and I'm a D&D kid and this is what we do and blah, 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 blah. And it feels like you're taking power and it feels like maybe you're being better, but really you just it just means that bad people and terrible actors get to decide what the white identity is, because the people who might make it good have exited it. And that's the sort of murky, weird stuff that I think that we really have to like learn how to address. Because it's not so simple as X or Y. It's the fact that like white culture is held hostage by some shitty people. And the average white person can't get it back until they're out of the picture. And that's an issue. And it's like, how do you deal with that? Because the problem will always be their defense. And you see this in people like Trump, their defense is then they pull on that sense of identity. Go, well, but this is how we've done it. See? You don't want to betray the family. And it's like, you weren't a family until 10 seconds ago, homie. But they try to hit that stuff, and it's complicated. And I would like, for me personally, in my own 99 dream, I would like to see a future where I can see something and people can say, yeah, white culture, and I can be like, oh, that's cool, because it's not shitting on me, it's not shitting on another group, it's not stealing from another group, it's just something that they sat down and came up with that was wholesome to them and fulfilling, and something that I can be like, yeah, what's up? I feel like that's the solution. I know it's a little weird and a little radical, but you gotta have something to go home to. And that sense of culture and village, it fills you up. And I've seen in my own life white friends, especially men, who have looked upon like what I've had in my culture, my community, with like envy. And I can see it in their eyes because they feel like they don't have that and they want it so bad. And because their culture has taught them that those things are like clothes you put on, they think, oh, well, I can just take off these clothes and put on those. What you're wearing is great, right? Can I put on? And it's like, no, my identity's not clothes, my friend. And they're like, but what am I gonna do? I need something. That's the part of me that I always feel for. I feel like I have to be careful in how I say things because people do try to use it as an excuse, and that's the issue too. But like, I feel for some of it. Just unfortunately, I can't fix that. White, I'm not part of white culture. I'm just like saying that, hey, maybe you need to find that thing that's great and awesome that's just you, and be like, this is white culture. And we can go, yeah, that's cool, that's great. And it can be actually good and great. And yeah, you're gonna get some flack from other people, but you know, the struggle. The use of the gods, they did this to justify fantasy racism. D&D is some of the laziest writing in the hobby. Agreed, S&D. Nah, sink the boats, follow me, start over, get new boats, hell yeah. Shinier boats, pimp boats. This is a better boat, not far away, it just keeps being ignored by the people in the first boat. Make a better boat, I'm down for that. Honestly, charging for some kind of editor service where you tell it like it is would be pretty tight. People want to hire me, I'll do it. Thanks for the follow, Limited College. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yes, and we love claiming our countries of origin and then never do anything about it. Ooh, ain't that some truth? Ever notice how humans have bunches of gods while other fantasy races only have one? And their alignment always reflects how their race is coded? It has been noticed. And like the homogenization of it all, races, marginalized folks, and the individuality of most of the cultures that white people have just cannibalized. Thanks for the subscription, Rolled Earth, I appreciate it. Thanks for the follow, Dunder Jester. Hype. I love all this hype train stuff. I appreciate it. Exactly, the roots of white culture are supremacy and colonization. White culture is garbage. The individual actual cultures are real and hype. Yeah. I feel like that's just back to what I said a minute ago, because I know I'm catching up. Thoughts about tieflings being marginalized, being baked into PHB, I think it's bullshit. But, like, I ain't trying to get no hate, but if anybody's been around me for a while, and especially my Twitter, you'll know I have very dark feelings about D&D, especially in how they do race, and I think it's just all bullshit. And the hard thing is going to be is that people are going to want to defend it because it's in a book, and I don't care how many times it's written. Not good, period. Thanks for the gifting the tier 1 sub, GM. I appreciate it. Gifted it to Emily. Love to see it. I'm in the process of addressing the campaign setting, and I found it surprisingly easy to just not have racism. But how easy it was to build in a specific power structure that makes that kind of partisanship difficult to gain traction. And the thing is like, people build whatever powers nearby. And the one thing I want people to realize is that, like, there's more to power than just using it for racism, especially if you're trying to build a foil. It doesn't have to be that sort of larger agency. And in a way, you do your villain a disservice. Because once again, it's a stupidity, so why make a stupid villain, right? Make it a villain who has an issue with something, a personal issue with something that they couldn't let go. And that's not the same as racism, right? You don't have to code the same way. It doesn't have to be, I hate all these people, but it's like a, can't you see? We need to do things differently and apply it to everybody, right? But have that be their wound that they're trying to put on everybody else, because that's essentially what has happened, you know? The thing is that people should understand that the PHP is portraying the main setting for the version. For 5th edition is Forgotten Realms, 3rd edition was Greyhawk and such. 500 years of history in the world has been built upon colonialism and the structures of what it means to be white and not white. Dismantling institutional racism is the work of lifetimes and can only be done through expansive, intersectional, anti-racist work. Agreed. Agreed. Oh, we definitely don't need another office, Emily. Nope. Nope. Build setting, yeet racist out the window with the big bad. Enjoyed writing, even the big bad wants to eat that shit. Thanks for the 10,000 biddies, Mina. Love it. Love it. Just dunking on everybody. Man. Bunny up here gifting the subs. Love to see it. Love to see it. Congrats, Anno, Burst of Hope, and Step. What's happening here, gamers? What's up, Spoon TV? We're just talking about some race. Speaking of interpersonal conflicts with the FF7 resurging, I think the Cloud versus Sephiroth conflict is built up and done really well. I hate Final Fantasy VII. Sorry, sir. Thank you for following Lydian Learbird. We don't need video games to remind us racism bad. If you need a game to tell you that being racist is bad, then fuck out of here. Agreed, Babylon. And also there's something to say about more games giving people hope and how to do things differently. We already know how things work. We already know how racism works right now. Give someone the gift of the idea of how to do things differently, of not to be racist, of how there's other conflicts besides racism, of how, hell, I'd love to see someone whose conflict was the beginning of something that was turned into racism, and that the heroes didn't just beat it after it happened, like, no, like, stomp that shit up before. Like, you know what I mean? Give me some cool shit. Give me, like, a story, the equivalent of someone, a group who's out to stop Hitler, like, before he got into office. You know what I mean? Like, let me give me that kind of stuff. Give me that juicy kind of stuff. Like, give me release in a way that I don't have to feel like I have to see people coded like me going through hundreds of years of terrible stuff, that I can come in and white savior the place. It doesn't hit right anymore, you know? Thanks for gifting tier 1 sub to the community, Step. I appreciate it. Not too long ago, I pressed the retcon button on a lot of my homebrew Pathfinder settings, history, and culture to nuke a lot of the racist conflicts that were still problematic. It was surprisingly difficult to convince a couple of my, notably white, players of my reasoning. That's the thing that scares me, honestly, is how much time I have to spend trying to convince, like, my white friends that racism isn't needed, and I'm like, why are you arguing for the side of racism? Just not? Like, and that's what gets me sometimes on Twitter, where people will be like, but, I'm like, can you just not? How hard is it just not to be like, cool, racism sucks, and just be done? Why does it have to be like a 28-page dissertation where 28 people have to come in with like anecdotes in personal life to tell you just to not try something? Why is it that? Why? Like, if anything, that's the bigger problem in all of this, is it's yeah, like, there's people that are above, but I'm so tired of having to literally fight someone just to not do something. Why are you so invested in racism? It's like that classic clip that popped up on Twitter that I think everybody thought was real and hoped was real, but was from a show. And the guy was like, well, what about rappers who say the N-word? Why can't white people? And he's like, then do it. Want to say it so bad, then do it. And it's the same with racism. It's like, well, why are you fighting so hard for racism in your game? Do you want to be racist? Well, no. Then why are you trying to put racism in your game? Because it's realistic. So you like racism? Well, no. But then why? Because here's the thing. I'll be real. Why is it that people want to talk about historical accuracy, but then they like to skip out stuff? So cool, you're gonna put in racism, so there's gonna be a shit ton of rape in your game too. Well, not well. Oh, is one weighted differently from you than the other? Why is that? Does one have more of a connection to your culture and your whiteness than the other one does? You can tell a lot by which tropes people have a hard time giving up with to how they see them. And the fact that people will fight so hard for racism because of historical accuracy and not want to put any other nasty ass shit says a lot. Same thing with guys who are like, but sexism. I'm like, You just had to put that shit in their game. Oh, yeah, well, you know, man. Nah, bro. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Shit. Yeah, just stop.
What he wants, what your parents want. What do you want? What do you want?
Got a gift sub while I was getting ready to sub, so I gift. You like money? We spend that on art. Wasn't a Lone Ranger based off of Black Cowboy? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So were a lot of pirates. We talked about that in a previous stream. Most of your pirates are black. Why? Westerns fall into white savior BS. They do a lot, and in a way far easier than other stuff. That's a little weird how transparent. Ever notice how many of the hero, cowboy, and westerns were actually former Confederate soldiers, but good people? You know. He was just fighting on the wrong side. He has a heart of gold as he fights to save his family in the South from Indians in the government. But luckily his gun saved the day. I think we get the term buckaroo from Bastardized, how do you say it, vocodo? I've heard, I remember hearing about that. I don't know the details of that. I have to look that up. That's like the second time I've heard about that. I'm gonna have to look that up now. By indigenous actors, you mean Sicilians? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. They're like, oh, close enough. It's like, and here I get pushed back anytime I build a darker skinned character. I hate that. Man has us with, I had a black adventuring team member. Oh. But it's okay. That was the Confederate former soldier looking for redemption, or better yet. But wait, he didn't own slaves. He was a good Confederate. Westerns being whitewashed are 100% linked to lost cause revisionism. That's a good one to go over. I might go over that on stream because, like, that's a big one that goes throughout just fiction and fantasy as a whole, right? We're not gonna get that. I'm gonna write that down because that's a whole stream. I had a really interesting paper a while ago discussing the racist / misogynist history of why hags are what they are in modern fantasy. I'd be curious to read that because I've heard a lot about that. Same thing with stuff like the crone and stuff like that. I had to kick a player from my table because he kept trying to hire underlings to carry his stuff. Guess how they looked What's the negative point with Final Fantasy 14? They just have a subspecies of Elven, the Dark Light, they're dark, so it's bad. I forgot about it because it doesn't come up a lot, but it is a thing. It is definitely a thing. Question and criticize the things you love, especially question and criticize the things you love. Because if you can question and criticize it and still love it, then you know you can own it, you know you can rock it. Like, don't be afraid to question it. Like, that's what really gives you security, and was when you know that you looked at it really objectively and it's still sound. Yep, Tolkien had some very dubious choices and biases, to say the least. Have you read Brandon Sanderson? To be fair, a lot of his novels are very white. Indeed, I have. I've read not Stormlight Archives, Mistborn. When it first started out, someone at the Kickstarter, someone was like, "This sounds amazing. You're the next Brandon Sanderson." I was like, "Bro, I'm down." We're like 15 days into this Kickstarter. I can handle that. Handle that. Wait a book or two. But yeah, I like he's got a good sense of world building. I definitely have the sense, and also his three laws. Because I've read his stuff, it's interesting. He really, I think, in a weird way, his method of world building may be really useful to majority of people because it lets you world build without having to shove things like racism in to build conflict. Because he definitely is understanding that conflict is more than just group versus group. And I think that's why his books resonate. He's also a hell of a fast writer, bro. Like the amount of books he puts out, not ghostwritten. I'm like, this man just after that shit. But that's the nice thing about having a system in a way. Like I guarantee you, he has like a almost like cooking way of building his books that lets him do stuff really fast. It's something I'm trying to get in the habit of actually. I had to stop wearing a Maljanor necklace. Come be Scottish white people and celebrate getting everyone from every track under one roof from a drink and banter. Just no more dwarf jokes or I'm gonna knock a dress. Yep. Yeah, that shit, like the accents and everything is just needs to stop. He has a lot of Mormon and anti-gay propaganda in his early novels. Oh? And Sanderson? Which ones? Because my issue is always going to be, and this is like what I fully meant, I can tell when something's anti-gay, but I have a hard time with telling when something's like anti-Mormon or like anti-Semitic, mainly because growing up, like I didn't even understand that people had an issue with Jewish people. Like, and especially for me, I thought it was a whole thing where like Nazis did it, and then we realized the Nazis were terrible and everything was fine. And then like I literally had to look up what anti-Semitism was. I was like, what is this word? I was like, anti-Jew. I was like, well, why? I was like, why? I was like, what is there? What? Like I've read it and I kind of get it, but I really don't. I have a really hard time with like why people would have an issue. Well, because it's like the things they say are just so ridiculously like not even like a leap. It's like a dive and like a backflip in 3/4, and you go around the sun, and I'm like, it's like one step away from flat Earth. Some of the shit that I've heard, I'm like, what? So for me, I don't really know most of like any of the slurs and stuff. Like some of it can go over my head, and like without tone I can get, but like if it's specific or history, that's one of those things that I definitely pointed out to me, so I know when to like abandon shit, because I'm like, oh, that's what that shit meant. Yeet. Conversation makes me grateful for my choir director who tries hard to highlight Sacred Heart music. The sacred music of the poor whites who found a way to write down music that poor whites couldn't read. Formal music could follow with their families. Hell yeah. I'd see more of that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it just needs to be really just about like that self, you know, and build it up. The Dragon Prince is great about that, and a lot of friends, elves are just as flawed as humans. They use the more uncouth accents. The king is black and interracial relationships are present. Dragon Prince is pretty solid, though. I remember hearing some like shenanigans with like the writer or something like that. One of those things I need to read more. I haven't watched the 3rd season yet. He wrote a blog post about gay marriage would be great. Oh, yeah. We're talking about Sanderson? Clockwork Jim, just so I know, like, so I can confirm, because, like, great and trash. I got no problems with it. Oh. I feel like a culture requires a measure of group solidarity. White culture is hyper individualist, so it struggles to build that identity. Yeah, I wouldn't say that, because we're all hyper individual. Like, I feel like that's an assumption from the outside. Like in black culture, like we're very individual. We just also, in a weird way, know that like we have to come together at certain points because of survival. But like we're wildly individual. And one of the things we're really fighting for when it comes to more diversity is because you can't get the full gamut of blackness when you have an allotment of one black character per 5th property, right? I'm black, but I'm not like most black people you meet, and that doesn't make me less black. Doesn't make me more black. I'm just a type of blackness. And there's so much of that. There's a ton of individualism, but we don't get that when we don't diverse our stuff. You know, we get left out. It gets assumed in this group identity. People are not monoliths. and I say this all the time, nothing is a monolith. A group is not a monolith. A culture is a fist of individual fingers who have come together because they know they need to come together to survive. And then when that threat is over, they're back to being individual people. You know? If anything, like the argument can be made, and this is like one of the things that Watchmen kind of like really honestly points out, is that like without an external enemy, like people have a tendency to wander, and that's kind of like whiteness, and that's why you see like when there's a war on something, it's like a cohesiveness because people are like, oh yeah, we got to get together, and that's the issue. It's always a them because they haven't actually had this need to actually bond, so they just assume that, oh, I'm just a person, that's it. Thank you for speaking to this, because seriously, this is damned important. It is damned important. It is damned important. You might have grown, it was 10 years ago, but it should not surprise people. It surprises me. I don't know. I didn't notice it in the books that I read, but now I'm gonna have to look at it hella more closely. Hella more closely. That, or they act like changing things is dismantling everything, including the good. Like, okay, sure, right now it's just Confederate statues like Rabbit Lee, but will George Washington be next? Where's the line? It's like, there is no line. The line is like when we're done taking out the trash, you're like, how much trash are we gonna take out? We're gonna take out all this trash? You're like, well, yeah, bro. Like, why? Why? Did you ever pause to think that maybe not everybody loves George Washington, or the fact that he owned the slaves kind of like really bothers us, and you can go, well, it's a time period and I don't care. I would have more respect for him if he was like, you know what, while we're over here making this great, awesome nation of free people, this whole slave shove is bullshit. I'm not doing it. Then I'd be like, give the man a statue. But nah. 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 We need to raise our standards for statues making. That's my slogan, 2021. Raise your statues. Do you want to see LDS getting comfortable fast? Ask them about why there are people with brown and black skin, or why they're so obsessed with converting Native Americans. My favorite book of old times written by Orson Scott Card. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Man, that motherfucker. Woof. Woof. Without trying to shit on other games, like, I feel kind of like this is important. What about like the Africa and oh yeah, pretty much 90% of travel to Africa land is hollow, you know. Fuck the book, build your own world. Agreed. I have some seriously harsh opinions about D&D and its depiction of half orcs, half elflings, and tieflings. I'm here for it. I'm here for all of that because I hate all of it. Cannot stand it. Take the system, burn the lore. I mean, I'm gonna be radical and say burn both, but that's me. It's in the book, so is food and hunger system, and outside of doing a specific session about wilderness survival, I've never tracked, bro, like for real. How many rations you got, my dude? Historical accuracy. Have you counted rations? How many hours of sleep did you get? Exactly, I opened my campaign with a massive disaster. Lots of folks on different sides of a war trying to survive together. Look at NC and TR coming in late. Thanks for showing up to the class late. Noon. Thanks for showing up. I like giving people shit sometimes. There's hundreds of ways to write a villain, and so many people focus on, LOL, let's make sure people know he's evil because he's racist. But then they fucking turn around and give the obviously racist villain humanizing moments. Yep. Can't have your cake and eat it too. Agreed. Like, yeah, there's a lot to unpack about dark elves or dragonborn or elves or dwarves, but holy hell, do we need hard-coded biological racism written into the rules? We do not. Thanks for the follow, SNERTR. Your mic was off. My mic was off? No.
I think it was just for...
Weird. It was too powerful for the mic. The man's trying to shut me down. Final Fantasy 12 is my favorite one. I like this one. I like Traff. Agreed. I remember talking to Sen about this the other day. Until we get stuff actually put in books instead of, well, in my game I do it this way, we won't see real change. Exactly. Everybody wants to do is like, well, in my game, like, well, make it a damn game. That's it, Brandon. Don't like Final Fantasy 7, friendship over. It's been this way. It's been this way since forever. Since forever. To clarify, folks, Brandon gave a rant on how he spent life as an RPG fan, getting equated to Barrett, who's a total character. Yeah, I really hated that. It's just, you know, it was just one of the things. It's hard to find certain things that resonate with you, and then, like, a lot of these things come by law of numbers, right? And this is kind of why I say, like, a lot of times, like, white people don't know what it's like to be a minority. Because sure, like, maybe for a hot second you can get that feel for it, but there's, like, just a constant state of being outnumbered. And so what usually happens is you always have a white person who thinks that they're the first one to say something. They're the first one to come up with this funny thing. They'd be like, ha, got a little white bread right there. And then, like, they think that they're the only one, and they don't realize that because the elements of how they came up with is really more cultural than individual, they don't recognize that some ex-population, the white culture, also came to that same thing. Because not a lot of you who know a lot of black people, you end up using it all on the same couple of us. So I end up hearing the same thing repeatedly over and over again, like it's deja vu, to the point where, like, I can cut you off at the beginning of your sentence and know what's gonna follow. And definitely some people around here know I can do that one. Like, chilly, it's that bad. Because you're like, bro, I've heard this. It's like the 10th time I've heard this week. Stop. Don't care anymore. It's not funny. Am I laughing? But besides that, there's elements of Final Fantasy VII story that just didn't resonate with me. And I think for some people it was the first game that resonated them with the sense of this graded battle, and especially involving, like, Earth terrorism and stuff like that. Yeah, but it wasn't mine. Like, not to tell too much about myself, but, like, I come from, like, a family of, like, educated and fairly, like, activist, like, black folks, right? Like, my dad was a pastor. It's not what he did for life, but he's literally a registered pastor. His dad was a pastor, shit like that. My dad was like, you need to read, son, instead of playing them video games. So when I was like 12, this mofo runs into my room and plops down the whole damn thing of Roots. All like 900 pages, because it's like the big giant hardback version. And this man expected me to read it. And when I didn't read it, he sat down and started reading it to me. So I had that kind of challenge. So certain things that I think that were like first for some people weren't really a first for me because of just the family that I have. So I think that's what changed certain games that were like some people's first or loves or stuff like that, and certain elements just weren't first for me. My favorite FFs are all the multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12. Not a bad one. Yeah, I like 8. I like 12. 12 is definitely my fave, followed probably by like 6. Let's say 8, 9. I have a hard time with 10. I can't stand Titus. 11 I love because MMO. 12 we talked about. 13 I think gets too much hate. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people say it is. It's a solid game. Love 14. And 15 was great, but whatever happened at like chapter 11 or 12, that shit was weird. The music thing, I can understand that. Thanks for the sub, the shwibble. I appreciate it. Closed captioning, yes. Because if it's impossible to have a world without racism, then they are not bad people for not trying to dismantle racism. Yep. They're like, I don't have to feel bad. Thanks for the follow, Chile. I'm just playing devil's advocate, bro. I'm so sick of devil's advocate. Like, the devil can just come in here and say what he has to say him damn self. If not, I don't hear it. My reason for not having racism in my game: the dragons shepherd earlier civilizations to a more enlightened point / dragons ate all the racist. I'm okay with that. Behold this land of forest. It was fertilized with the poo of racist. We did something like that one time. The Dragonborn had suffered a natural disaster, and a politician was going to take advantage of it. The players stumped it out and helped the Dragonborn take back the capital. Fast forward, the Dragonborn city of Skarsgård is a cultural marvel. Hell yeah. You know what really bugs me? Like an immense amount? I guess we'll see that. Silly gate. It's like one of those things that like I try to make it so it cuts out the background noise, but then it likes to do weird things. I've noticed that GMs who are intractable on including racism also don't hesitate to include sexism. They want that whole trifecta of shit. Black and democratic. Gotta head back to a work meeting. All right, see you later, S&D. Appreciate it. See you around. I think I'm almost caught up on this chat stuff. Is what people try to shine a spotlight on racism, and then they make the marginalized group monstrous / pose actual harm to everyone. Like, yeah, racism is bad, but it's valid because they're actually monsters a little bit. Haha, right? Thanks for the follow, Big Black Steel. Hope that's it. Now I'm at this point where I'm like, when I see some of the stuff, I'm like, is this a troll name? The weirdest pushback I got was sharing some art of a black elf bard, and most others in the group were actually like, a black elf? Excuse you, this is a Christian D&D game. I hate that. Way to codify toxic xenophobia on top of racism with some extra grossness. My favorite is, oh, no racism? So we can just not have conflict? Bro, if you literally can't figure out how to make layered conflict without racism, not only is that a massive red flag, but you suck as a creator. You gotta pull that Brie Larson energy. If I'm not the next one, anyone, I'm the first me. Feel about that. I say that a lot when people are like, is this like, no, swords fall. You'll get used to it. Like, this is a story about racism against werewolves who go feral and kill people for 3 days out of the month. This is an analogy I will not accept criticism on. Actually, I lied. My actual favorite is the I'll make characters who are black / LGBTQ / disabled, etc. But it needs to have a narrative reason. Motherfucker, do black people have a narrative reason to be black in real life? Yep. People ask me that all the time about Alara. They're like, oh, like, she has one arm. Like, does the lion pauldron do anything? I'm like, nope. Oh. So nothing? No. She just thought it looked cool, so she wears it. No, it doesn't. Nope. Nothing comes out of it. Nothing. Just cool looking. And sometimes that blows people away. They're like, I'm like, yeah, man, like, we do stuff in real life just because it's cool, and so can your character. Oh, I hate that stuff. I'm a dwarf and I hate knife-eared elves. I can't stand that. I hate it. Hate it. Oh, Arthur Conan Doyle was extremely anti a whole bunch of shit. I don't mind Conan, but I always, in my mind, I always like, it's my own censored version of Conan that I realize is not real life, but some of that shit's so damn gross. I'm like, why? Reboot it, please. I was thinking about the show from sci-fi called Eureka, how Henry showed himself to be one, if not one of the smartest scientists in the world, but never pursued a higher position. Finding out later, his college roommate used a device that wiped short-term memory to steal his ideas and inventions, steal his partner, steal credit, so career hit me hard. Yeah, I love Henry in that show. Like, that was so good. And even though like there was a little bit where I was like, don't go this route with Henry, it ended up a good way. But I liked how they turned it. It was like, oh, of course the black has a mechanic, but he's like, nah, he's just, that's what he does for fun. Like, you know, man, this dude's a super genius. Like, he keeps everything running. You're like, oh shit, right? Yeah, Henry's the man. Dwarves of Scott is annoying. It's that old stereotype. We were all drunk, cheap, money obsessed, and also the fact we don't have dwarves in our own culture. Yeah, I was actually wondering about that. I was like, who cited dwarves for that? Like, doesn't seem to be based on anything. Mood, black individualism. I know you feel me on that one, SJ. Also, blackness is assumed to be a group, a singular culture. Yep. Can we get together something for other than the war? A barbecue. What up, V? Nice of you to join us. Like climate change? Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. My perspective is very shaped by the fact that I am black, but first generation American. It's very different for someone who's a black American, but whose family's been here for a while. Exactly. That's very true. That's very true. Very true. God, I remember that shit around 9/11, and everyone was like, we need to unify to hunt terrorists. Oh my God. That 9/11 was like really, I don't want to say really hard for me, but it was. I remember that was a time when a lot of people, especially in high school around me, were still trying to sell me the whole racism is over. And I remember 9/11, and then I remember the day afterwards, and I remember that there was a couple of Muslim people that I knew, a couple of them like through like one of the classes I was in, some debate class back in the day. And then for them just seeing on the outside their life going from normal on the 10th, just a hellscape on the 12th, it was just like it was like watching a whole country turn against people, and that hit me in a sense of feeling like remembering that, oh yeah, this is the country you're in, my friend. You know, right now, like you're not hunted down for being black, but that can change because all it needs is like one bad enough example, and they'll all just. These are like people that were in their community, man, and like one of them was a kid who was so goddamn, you know, and just to see people sit there and turn on them like that, can't handle it. Don't like it. Raise your statues. Yep. My bad step. Don't get me started on 9/11. Me get started on 9/11. Peak me. And then even I as an individual have my own distinct takes on how I think versus how my parents do. If families aren't one big monolith, there's no way black culture is either. And in a way, it's a little bit of pretend, but it's not pretend. It's just like I said, it's just understanding that if we don't bond together in certain shit, it's just game over, straight up. What are you gonna do? You know. Another reason the South has made so many Confederate statues is segregation. Look it up. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, black folks know about that one. That they showed up right when segregation happened because it was like a big old fuck you. But people like to look at that differently. I should actually write a little Medium article about that and show that timeline because I think people don't realize it a lot. It doesn't get talked about enough either. I've been here the whole time. Don't mind me. Sure you were, Valor. I believe you. What's up, millionaire? How's it going? I love when I drop. I love when I drop those on people and they just kind of stare. Know when the monument in Stone Mountain was put up. Yo. Thanks for the follow, millionaire. As a note, Barrett feeds in the BS surrounding the character Panther and Exalted. Exalted had so many issues for such a game that like was kind of cool, but also issues. I'm trying to catch up on chat. I'm streaming the remake and pointing out the moments. Yeah. And like grows lead as a father, but then undercut by the voice performance. And it's more than the voice performance too. There's some other stuff in there, but like 6 is great, 13 is fun, especially the combat. And also I appreciated 13 that like it really had a story and it was like, bro, you can't just wander around because like no, like you're gonna die. This shit's real. Breath of Fire 3, hell yeah. Like, as everybody starts talking about their favorite JRPGs, bunch of nerds. Final Fantasy 14 is like the only FF game I really kind of roll with. Fair, fair. Also fan of 12, to be honest. I love Ivalice as a setting, which is fair. The poo comment is going to my game now. It lives on. It lives on. I also stand by the viewpoint that DQM's breeding system is hella more interesting than Pokemon Gold Silver. That's a bold statement. I mean, but Dragon Quest Monsters is pretty dope, though. It's just they just don't have the same flair for the actual creatures Pokemon does. And that's kind of the deal breaker for some. Real talk, we need more black art. More. I want more black paladins, more black wizards, more black everything. I'm 100% for it. 100. The X-Men problem. We should not discriminate against mutants, but they get killed with a thought. Yep. We shouldn't be racist, but let me justify racism for us. Took me ever to find good art for some characters. I had a concept in my campaign. I found stuff eventually, but way too hard. I'm looking forward to people using Swordsfall stuff as like references and being like, yeah. First time listening in, enjoying the stream so far. Really strong point in the laziness aspect earlier, mate. I'll do from Manchester in the UK. What's up, King of Bards? How's it going? I appreciate it. It's just anyway. I'm almost caught up with this chat, y'all. I almost made it. Henry is awesome in Eureka. He was in Brother from Another Planet. Yes, he was. He's such a strong actor. He's a voice I'd like to have someday in like something Swordsfall related. Thanks for the follow, Corvus. Dwarf characterization is often highly anti-Semitic. They combine Scottish accent and alcoholism and lots of facial features, squad forms, and obsession with gold. Oh, that's right, all those things. See, that's what I'm saying about like because I'm just like, I don't understand how that has anything to do with Jewish people. I just know that people use it as an insult, so I'm like, you suck. But like for me, it's just like, whew, where do you guys make it up from? Why? Who hurt you? I remember the debate team organizing escorts for our Muslim teammates. It was like that. I mean, had to. There's just so much to unpack if you're trying to use stock fantasy. I mean, you could just throw it all in the trash. We could just not use stock. We could just, make our own tasty brew. I don't know why that's hard. Yell some of my Asian brothers and sisters right now. Truth. My wife and I had made it to the point to shop at our local Asian market first and foremost and only go elsewhere for anything they didn't physically have. Which is good. Like, it's the shit that people were like... I mean, it's not even surprising, but it's just like... I don't know if your nose is but your face and just to be a dick. There was dwarves in the Germanic folklore, and because there's a lot of similarities to Gaelic folklore and Germanic folklore, and because of the Danish and the Norwegian Norse connections to the Scottish Isles, a lot of that gets lumped in, but literally none of it. But literally none in Celtic / Gaelic folklore at all. Cool. Made up shit. Love to see it. Hate to see it. As a history student, I think the single greatest mistake in American historiography was letting the white Southerners influence the narrative of the Civil War. True. But it's also like, what could you have done, in a sense? There was such a rush for healing, which is why I'm usually not a big fan of it, just because it's like an excuse to go back to status quo. Safe status quo? About it. Real talk, we need more black gunslingers as well. Absolutely, and for anyone who does have that option, I encourage them to do the same, not just support, but honestly for themselves. The quality difference in meat and produce compared to big box, oh yeah. You gotta go to the nice like small places to get like them good cuts. Thanks for the follow, Radiator RPG. I appreciate it. All right. An hour and 1.5. We're gonna hit this bowl and we're gonna say some closing things. And I feel like I hit my points. If people have questions, I'm down for questions. Now that I'm caught up, I can actually answer your questions in real time instead of 20 minutes later. I think the main thing I want people to remember sometimes is that just because something is that way doesn't mean it has to be. And oftentimes people think that you just had hell lag. No, Shaw. I had this weird thing sometimes where I'm like, people commented to me and I get this weird thing. I feel like I have to respond. That's why I'm so active on Twitter. It's my own little thing. If people will talk to me, I feel like I have to respond. Like I had my own monologue and I saw chat flying and I was like, gotta give the people what they want. Just finished reading Summon of Kings, by the way. Loved it. The verbal combat is really interesting, and the art aesthetic is amazing. Glad you liked it. Glad you liked it, Casey. I'm hoping. And I'm not gonna like complain, but like I was kind of hoping Summon of Kings would be a little bit hotter than it was. Because I don't know if people realize it, but like you're getting the whole Swords Fall system. I mean, I didn't give you all the extra stuff that has nothing to do with Summon of Kings, but like that's the dice system. That's the whole dice system. You just don't get the extra attributes that have nothing to do with battling for rap. So my plan was, and I don't know, we'll see. I have some other stuff in the works, but my plan was to do more stuff like Summon of Kings in almost like a modular way, because you know there's a lot of professions in Swordsfall, and one of the things I wanted to do is I really wanted to almost beta test them in a way. And so my idea was to kind of maybe take various professions and do little one-shots like Summon of Kings, but do with other stuff. So I was just kind of waiting to see how people felt about Summon of Kings, but everyone keeps asking me about a general RPG that I almost feel like there's not a point to doing little mini releases when everyone just wants a giant book. So still want to thank you for that thread about platonic male love. It was so refreshing seeing that. You're welcome, Noah. That was a bit ago. Yeah, no problem. I've always been a big fan of that. You know, because I've always been, for whatever reason, I was the kind of guy who just never had a problem with that. Like guys would be like, "Can I hug you?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's hug, bro." Like, come on now. Like, everybody like needs that sense of affirmation. I'm 100% about it. Doing good work out there. I appreciate it, Mirrors. I appreciate it. I think the one class thing might have thrown players like options. Well, that was the thing, and that's the kind of thing where, like, I'm wondering how many people have actually tried to play it and not just read the book, because the options come in how you play the game itself. The way the game is arranged, you can't buy every skill, right? You can't max everything. So my point was to make it to where, like, instead of it being about like multiple classes, it was about like build your own Jalen, your own different rapper, because they all flow different moves, have different stuff, the different combinations you can do. In a lot of ways, I think my problem is that people always come from a D&D view, and their initial reaction is to judge it based on D&D, versus just kind of like realizing that I don't play D&D like that, nor do I draw inspiration from D&D, so it's just totally different. Are there any particular sources or stories that influenced you when you're creating the world of Swordsfall? Nope. I mean, for me, I'm just a big old nerd. I play everything, I watch everything. So I pull a lot of stuff from the stuff that I love from all the various times I've sat around and said would do this differently, or I would do that differently. And the rest of it is I just dive into African lore, and I just dive hard. Anytime I need something, I hit that Google and I read about it. And I'm just always just any new knowledge and just kind of making what I want to make, and just always looking it over and making sure that it was different in a good way. Real talk, I want a big book so I can put it down a solid amount of cash. I understand. It's just like the one thing I want people to kind of remember, like if you don't make content per se, is that it's hard to always do big releases, because big releases mean a lot of your time spent doing something that's not making money. And for me, because I do Swordsfall full time, like I don't have another job. I do this, and literally that's it. Sometimes people will hire me for like random consulting, but like nothing. So for me, like I need stuff that I can do that's a steady revenue stream that I can do, and then also work on big stuff. But like the RPG book, I mean, is at least a year and some change away. I mean, at least. Because I still have to finish shipping Welcome to Tycor, and then those are the 3 books, and then I have another project I'm working on. And then I'm going to get to the RPG, but then I want to do a whole beta testing and the whole thing. So I want to do mini releases so people can get content, because I'm not just going to go straight to the book. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to work on with that. I got some cool ideas, but they require me to sit down and really ideally like with the play group. I'm just not there yet. Especially now I got this stuff to do still. Dreams is still like in production, still working on that and whatnot, so. Some of the Kings was nice because I was able to make it in a short amount of time. Honestly, it spent more time being edited and designed than I did writing it. which was nice. And now that that's done, my idea was to do something like that like every couple months. I'm really interested in the mechanics of the Spirit Investigators and Atoners, by the way. Thinking about those in terms of Summon of Kings is pretty exciting. And that's kind of what my goal was, right? Was for people to see Summon of Kings and see what the system can do, and then be like, cool, I'd like to see this. And when I do those mini releases, it lets me dive into little chunks of the lore that I wouldn't be able to do as much in a full game. Because I'm not, you know what I mean? Like what I did in Summon of Kings, I would not put in the book per se. And I want to do mini releases where I can just show chunks and flavors of the world. Because I got all sorts of ideas. Like I had this one idea for like this almost tower defense game using sentry locks and stuff like that. And a mini idea for like a mini detective agency for like Spirit Investigators and stuff like that. It's just like stuff that I'm playing around with, you know. I want to do like a mini sort of like wrestling thing with my bar and like a UFC sort of thing with Dominga, and I'm just playing around with cool concepts that show the class and what I think is like their ideal situation. I mean, I accept every bit that you toss our way. The bank heist has been my favorite thing I've read all quarantine. I appreciate that, Emily. The bank heist was really fun to write too. So, if anything, that's one of the releases that I'm kind of like everyone needs to read because I really had a lot of fun writing it, and it's one of the ones I really want people to read the most because it's like cool. You get to see the characters really be them in their element, and that's fun. I would love some more mini releases. I love Summon of Kings and would be interested in seeing other professions to get the same highlight treatment. Personally, I'm really excited for the big book so I can start running a campaign with it and then throw in the modules that come out for my players, which I get as well. I'm not sure if this is true. I've heard that books bought and distributed to schools is dictated and influenced by what the Texas Board of Education purchases because their purchasing power dictates what other states use to teach the standard. Anyway, teacher, I'm confused. I don't know where that came from. I'm confused by that. I feel like I missed something. What's up, Zugar? A little late to the stream. If you're willing, do you have any advice for a cis white guy trying to bring in more diverse NPCs and other compelling characters without it feeling like you're disrespecting or misrepresenting, not being a race of the character? The answer jumps to my mind is, hey, me, that seems like a me problem. It's a mix. It's if you can't afford to hire someone, because at the end of the day, like you're never gonna be able to do it as authentically as you want without hiring someone who lives that life. But the biggest thing that you need to remember when you're trying to do an NPC is that they don't exist in a vacuum. If you were making someone who's coded as a culture, right? If you put an NPC who is black, you need to think about that and be like, if I invite over a whole bunch of my black friends and some random black people, how are they going to feel about this? Are they going to feel proud? Are they going to feel good about it? Or are they going to feel mocked? Did I just do this because I wanted a cheap laugh? You know, like those are the serious questions you have to ask. And that's the thing that I think scares people, because there is no easy answer, because once again, people are not a monolith. So if you're playing in a culture that is not yours, you need to think about the people you know and be like, cool, is this something they would enjoy? Is this something they would love? And while I can't say it about race, I can tell you about, like, when it comes to Saxon as a male writer, when I make female characters, I very much sit there and think, hey, I think about all the different like ladies and women of all the different kinds I know in my life, and I'm like, if I showed them Nubaya, would they cut me or would they cheer me? And that's always a question I ask when I make a character. I'm like, cool, if I show this to these folks, how are they gonna feel? And I really think about them, and it's that sort of thing. It's like, do you know your audience? And not just your audience, but your friends, your people around you. Like, do you know them? And if you do, I feel like it's a lot easier to kind of wait and be like, nope. I totally see Brandon just giving me that face right now, so now we're gonna change this a little bit, and that's okay. But I feel like sometimes people don't want to do that. They don't want to change something that they would be okay with because someone else wouldn't be. Like taking that L for the good of the group, you know? Yeah, the Hyper RPG run was super good for that. Yeah, man, they nailed it at the park. I was so happy about that. They really hit on the rep your own style to rap sort of thing. Yep. And like for like the Summit of Kings, I don't know if people picked up on it, but in a way I really thought about different rappers and how their style would be in combat, and then I broke it apart into moves and I put them in tiers and just kind of mixed them all in. So like there's an essence like how I picture Busta Rhymes that I put together that's like broken in there. that. So I don't know. It's one of those things I really want people to sit down and really play with the diversity of the tools. It's a tool-based game, not a class-based game. It's not D&D. And the more you think about it like D&D, the less you'll understand Swordsfall. And I genuinely mean that. I'm only just growing out of D&D into other games, and I can feel that a little. There's a bit of unlearning to do. Honestly, I tell people, if you see something in Swordsfall and you're like, oh, this is like D&D, it's not. You should probably do the opposite of what you think it is. For me as a designer, I never played enough D&D for D&D to be the building block of my RPG experience. You know, like my first one was really Vampire the Masquerade, and that's what I really enjoyed. So story-based is what I'm more familiar with than how D&D does it. I played D&D, you know, but it just didn't leave the same mark. Also research as much as I can as well too, so I can't fall on codified stereotypes. And this is the thing where it's like, I challenge people to actually go out and read books by Black authors, read games by us. Like, if you read what we put in, it's pretty clear what we want. And usually what the pushback is that it's clear we don't like something, but the white author does. And then they're trying to find ways to justify it rather than just not fucking do it. They're like, well, but no. Well, but I thought, it's like, why you just no, just don't. Well, but it's like, exactly, you want to do it. You don't really care. You just want us to not be mad. Not the same thing. Thanks for the host, Mirror Shadows. I appreciate that. So even though I haven't gotten to playing Summon of Kings, the book makes the style clear. And that was partially what I was going for, too. The rundown on the homepage really helps as well. I'm also working on a whole learning module for Summon of Kings. It was supposed to be done a while ago, but I got the stuff. But I'm going to go into some more detailed stuff because people ask me questions. I really want people to play Summon of Kings. I'm going to try to make it as frictionless as possible. My only issue with playing a Jalen as much as I would want to be a Jalen in the vein of the Southern rapper, aka Ludacris, Lord knows I'll end up being Curtis Blow with my particular rapping skills. That just means you have to be quest to be the better rapper. Would it be possible to release a rules light version of the book, maybe with 8 professions? Nope. That's Summon of Kings. Summon of Kings is a rule light version of the game. Because here's the thing, it's not D&D. Like, the professions don't just come separately. Jalen is in Summon of Kings because Summon of Kings is about Summon of Kings, which is a Jalen thing. It don't want to sound mean, but like, I have a way that I have Swordsfall in it. I really care how other people do their game. Be mean, but I have a way that I want to do it, and you know me, I'm very much about be the change you want to be, and the change I want to see. So everyone needs to read The Bank Heist. It's a gift. Agreed. I think the R&B song I made today about social distancing that I put up on Twitter is probably a good example of how it sounds. It was actually pretty solid. I'm not gonna hate. It was actually pretty solid. It was basically New Edition with 6-foot spacing, so you're gonna have to thank young Bobby Brown. I mean, gotta love Bobby Brown, minus, you know, him being a shitty person sometimes. At the time, I can't keep with the ratio of Bobby Brown shittiness. I just think of Bobby Brown as a singer, and that's it. Awesome, thank you. I appreciate the insight. It helped me identify where that fear comes from a bit more now. And it really is one of those things, the more you're exposed to something, the easier it's going to be for you to understand it. And really, it's just one of those things where people can't be afraid to immerse themselves in some Black culture. And sometimes we're going to say some stuff that it's going to feel like you, but it's like, did we say your name? No, then it's not you. It's something you're maybe adjacent to. And if you listen, a lot of the times we tell you what we don't like, and you can kind of like not do it. You know what I mean? Like, you can really get ahead of this stuff. Listen to us. Oof, Vampire Water Darkness, like, I've been a fan for 20 years, but Jesus, I love it. Like, I know there's a whole bunch of stuff about the writers, and I've gotten into that stuff, and I'm like, that's cool, but like, I've decided what it is for me in my mind. And any of the weird fascist stuff that people talk about, I'm like, what? I don't know that. I don't know what that is. And they're like, well, it's page 8. Oh, I didn't have a page 18 in my book. It's weird. It goes from 17 to 19. Oh, Brandon, Christmas taught us that you were familiar with VTM. Man, that shit. That shit. I'm still kind of mad about that, to be honest. Because it wasn't that. It would piss me off. It was like, bro, like, I know this is a thing. But what are people going to do about it? Like, you know, and people like were getting mad at me, and it's like, bro, you play D&D. How you gonna get mad at me about giving away a book of a place I don't work for at a game I don't even really play, while you play a game that still's got Mike Merles on the payroll? Bro, fight me. And what drove me to was like, I was like, cool, so you're gonna go to Onyx Path and get mad at them, right? And all those people that had shit to say about me, I don't see not one of them say anything about Onyx Path. They had, what, 3 or 4 Kickstarters? I didn't see none of their names saying shit. Everyone wants to come and give me shit because they want me to be perfect, but they will not do the work themselves. And that has always been my crux in this. I am all about activism, bro. All about it, but everybody wants to do the fucking talking. No one wants to do the work, right? I'm the only one who over here with 10,000 followers who's over here willing to actually be like, nah, man, I'm not okay with what Adam Coble did, and unfollowed him. And then meanwhile, everyone else who has any hint of anything like that has been turtly as fuck. So I don't want to hear shit from people as far as I'm concerned, bro, because you know where I stand and you know about shit. And you know that, like, out of anybody, if you use some fucked up shit, I'll be the first one to say it because that's how I feel about it. But, like, you cannot get mad at me about not gearing up for something that you were not willing to gear up for as well. You want me to get pitchforks? Cool. I'll meet you outside with your pitchfork too, bro. So no, like, I'm tired of it being like, go do this work and go, like, literally, because what people don't realize too is every time I put up a fight, every time I fight someone in that space, I lose something out of that battle. Every single time I get on Twitter and I say something about someone, I lose something. I either get people who either want to get a refund, which happens, I get people who unsubscribe, I get locks followers, I get blocks, I get people who no longer talk to me. Every single time I take something to be a better person in this community, I lose something. So I don't want to make a big deal about it because I'll keep doing it because that's how I feel. That's what helps me sleep at night. I just don't like the fact that people think that that shit is free. I pay for that. I pay for that on a fucking daily. I'm just okay with it because I'm sick of this shit. But, like, people need to get off their fucking high horse of feeling like, oh, hey, like, why? But Brandon, you're supposed to be the paragon. I'm like, cool, bro. Like, so come on then. You're gonna go put all this stuff on Onyx Path, right? Put it out there so I can back it up, right? Oh no. Oh, you don't want to because you're scared. Oh, but I gotta gaslight. I gotta gaslight myself. I gotta put myself out there. But y'all okay. And that's the shit I'm about to get real sick of. Because I have no problem doing me, but a lot of people want to sit behind me as a shield. Don't work like that. Work like that. Don't work like that. Don't work like that. I'm very much starting to transform my own Twitter page from less about I'm not your free cannon. Like, I'm not over here to take all the shots that honestly you're too chicken shit to do. Because I'm just be real about it. Be real about it. A lot of people want to sit there and be like, yay and awesome, and they literally are too scared to fucking do anything. People will sit there and whine about stuff that I have to deal with every day. The same people who get mad about being like, well, Brandon does this and he says this. The second people will say something about him, the second they get more than 10 notifications on their Twitter, they're like, oh, I can't. My notifications are blowing up. My mental health. But I get like between anywhere from 100 to 300 mentions a day. A day. And there's some people in my Discord right now who know because I've shown them a day. I handle that shit, you know what I mean? So, like, if people want to be mad about stuff, I'm all for it. If you got evidence and receipts that I can back up, I'm all for it. But I'm not gonna be your cannon for you. I have no problem shooting my own shots, and I take those hits. Really tired of people feeling like they can use me as like their own proxy. Work like that. Don't work like that. Don't work like that. Gotta back up your people. That's how it is. What's up, Baron? How's it going? There's so many missing stairs in this community. There's no excuse to target good influencers. Here's the real. Since we're getting to the end of the stream, and I'm about to hit this bulk, and I just don't really care because a lot of the stuff is like. I'm gonna put it like this. What would it take for you to boycott D&D? Anybody who plays D&D, what would it take you to put down your D&D books and never again? So until people can be honest about the fact that the people who play D&D would rather eat their own foot than not play it or not buy a book, things won't change. And that's the real of it. Everybody wants to do everything they can to pivot it, but not get away from the fact that admitting that maybe, just maybe, D&D as an entity tracks that shit. And that it's not enough just to say, okay, we can't be that way. You have to change it from the inside and be willing to put your foot down. The fact that like all that shit happened with fucking Zach, and then people could know that Mike Morales is part of this shit, and then everybody kind of goes silent knowing that motherfucker's still there, bro, fight me. And you want to sit there and get all mad about me because I had the nerve to give away a copy of the game? The fact that I had the nerve to give away a copy of a game out of my own pocket? And y'all like literally will sit there and buy shit while this man's probably sitting there making all the shit that you like?
It's a ridiculous question. False. Black Bear. That's debatable.
People over here get mad at Critical Role for being on Amazon, but they can't put down D&D.
Bears do not. What is going on? What are you doing?
What's up? You know what I mean? Like, you mad as hell and still buying it. Exactly. I'm so mad. How could you guys do this? And just, can I get another one of those? And how dare you? It's like, come on, bro. People will get mad at me over like the little shit. And like literally got like rapists on their team, and people are like, well, you know, his name isn't in the book that not this book specifically. He only wrote like this part of the book. Like I said, I am mad at D&D. I've never really cared. Like, it's a game that I play like any other game. It's a game that I don't play when I don't feel like playing it. But it's interesting to me to see how people will obsess over it and also be like, we need to make it more diverse, but also not recognize that the company itself that does it is not that. And that has done everything it can to avoid having to give up any sort of responsibility for it. Why is it that of all the marketplaces that the D&D guild take 50%? I don't care what you say. That doesn't make sense to me. If I was doing a Swordsfall property and I was doing that stuff, I would not take 50%. Because I'm sorry, I know how business works. 50% for someone else who's using my IP? Bro, why even do it? I'm literally farming you out as cheap work. You're literally an intern. You're a free intern. Give me half your paycheck, bro. And that's fine. Like, no one has to have an issue with that. But you can't ride a higher horse while that shit is obviously going on and has obviously been going on and nothing has changed. And in the meantime, you have all these amazing creators out there. Because there are some great writers of Wizards of the Coast. And I always wonder what would happen if we released some of that talent to go to places where they could write what they wanted to write and also still make a living. And that's always the thing, man. Like, I don't think people think from the creative end how many creators are stuck at places they don't want to be because, man, they got bills to pay. And at least they're getting kind of to do the closest sort of thing they get to like. And plenty of creators have to make that choice. You know how many amazing artists are locked away at Marvel and Disney and we sit there and shit on them, but they're like, bro, they're the only ones who will pay decent for my art. And that's some of the issues with the system that we have, man, is like, that's kind of the issue to wrap around power. That's also the issue of powers, because money follows power. So that's how we have it, right? And hell, the only reason I'm even up here, the only reason I have a voice of all this shit is because I'm the kid who came in pretending like D&D didn't fucking matter. And everyone's like, aren't you scared of D&D? I'm like, why? They look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, well, but why are you? Like, I just can't imagine going into any field and being so scared by the number one person you don't even trust. Like, you know, I mean, imagine what anything would be like. Imagine what music would be like if someone was like, well, I mean, Beethoven's the best. So, I mean, why even write classical music anymore? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? We can just do Beethoven verdes over and over again. I mean, clearly. You know what I mean? Like, you kill creativity when you assume that this is as good as it gets. When you assume that nothing else can come out. Because taste can change. Taste can change hella fast. taste and trends can change faster than you can predict them, than you can react to them. You know what I mean? And it's just like, if you're not trying to be part of that difference, then you are helping. Oh, nobody wants to feel like they're a part of it. And we're all a part of it, bro. We're all a part of this shit. We all, in some way, have had our hand in some shit pie. And you don't get it better by pretending you didn't do it. You get better by being like, oh shit, my hand was in shit. Let me pull my hand out, shit. Wash my damn hands and move on. Like, you know? No, I won't speak about what Wizards of the Coast can and cannot do, because, like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be like jumping into someone's business. I just know that when it comes to something like that, they know more than people give them credit. And sometimes people will act like Wizards of the Coast is some, like, mom and pop shop. You know? You know? Yep, I think people just get too absorbed in, I'm not a match for big XYZ. Spoke with a guy streaming about the problems with DM's Guild. I hate the way it locks content down with exclusive distribution rules. Yep. I view RPGs like video games. I don't play just Dark Souls. Sometimes I want to play Risk of Rain too. Exactly. There's a whole damn industry beyond D&D. You don't have to be matched for anyone, just be. Appreciate the raid. What's up, Raiders? How's it going? Oh snap, more gift subs. Damn. I appreciate it. Lucky because decompressing from D&D, but hello fam, hope your stream is going well. What's up? I appreciate it. Real talk, D&D Beyond is robbing people for 600 plus for shit, but it's, I mean, I saw it, and like I said, I know people got mad, and I wasn't trying to like shit on anything per se, but like, when I saw that cut, I was just like, why would you say yes to this? What's up, Humalo? How's it going? Looks like Nat Nerd got a sub, Tiger got a sub, Jim got a sub, Grindel got a sub, Nomi got a sub, everybody gets a sub. I don't have to be a AAA game dev to be successful at making games, and that's enough. Exactly. And also, if you think about it, AAA is more of like an economic term than it is a real term, because all AAA means is this studio has a butt ton of money in their bank. Which, don't get me wrong, like, money is needed, but that's the only distinction of AAA, is they have X amount of dollars in the bank. Not that they have the talent for it, just that they have that much money, because we recognize that you can throw enough money at a problem and it probably goes away. How does this work? I do Twitch, really. Basically, like, you could watch like the VODs, like the old streams that I have up there and stuff like that. And I'm working on the other rewards. I'm a bit of a Twitch noob myself, so I'm working on making it better. And hi, thanks for the raid. I think that's it. That's it. This isn't about shitting on things. I'm more talking about being an active consumer and thinking about how much money you're giving to one firm, one RPG studio. No, that's for sure. I was just thinking in terms of like I said, I always logically know that talent is locked away behind big places. I just don't want to get in the sense that we think that, how do I put it the way I want to? I want us to understand there's more of a mechanisms of how people use those businesses rather than the business itself. And that kind of goes back to what I was telling some people offline, is that like the issue isn't millionaires, the issue that is billionaire. For all intended purposes, you can be a millionaire and run an ethical business. It is impossible to be a billionaire and actually run an ethical business. If you pay your people correctly, you will not be a billionaire, and that's why billionaire is an artificial thing. And that's like the kind of thing, that's the sort of error I want to kind of split, right? Is just recognizing more that it's the machinations and not just the systems, because I feel like we hit this point where we think that, oh, we burn this institution and we beat this thing, so the problem's solved. And it's not. It's the way people use the thing. Like, imagine Wizards of the Coast, right? But with a head leadership that was like, we are going to do diversity #1. not by like kicking out white dudes, but by being like, oh hey, let me just scroll through like the black creator tag. Oh hey, let me hit up these people that are doing stuff. Oh hey, I need diverse games. What's up? Oh hey, like you're a hugely popular black streamer. What's up? Like you're a big ass company, right? You have the resources to go out and look for people, and we know for a fact that they're not looking for diverse people, right? So all I'm saying is I want a little bit more of thinking about those things with good people in it, because one of the problems I think we have is that good people have a tendency to avoid power at all cost. And we look at it like a good thing. Like we kind of just said that about Henry, right? Henry was smart, he didn't want power. But if you think about the lesson that Eureka taught by the end, was that of everybody, Henry needed to be the leader the most, because he wasn't power hungry, but he had the knowledge to be a great leader, right? He recognized power and knew how to not use it against people. And that's what made him a good mayor. And so largely we need to learn to do the same thing in other divisions, because I often see like my left and liberal friends are like anti-money, and I'm like, no. How can we change things if we do not have the power? And the rule of the law right now, whether you like it or not, is money rules. And I don't think that's going away, because that's just the basis of so much shit. It just is. Honestly, I'm gonna be real. It just is. I don't want to even argue about that anymore. It just is. But I'm like, what would it be like if we had good people with this power? What if we had good people with money? What if it was Jimmy Carter with $1 billion fucking in the presidency instead of fucking Trump? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we spend all this time thinking about how power is itself bad, and we don't recognize the fact that bad people recognize how to use power better than good people, which is really the issue, right? Good people don't like the ickiness that comes with abusing power. And that's fine. But it can't be a whole avoidance of it. You know, we need more really good, awesome, solid people to run for president, to run for Senate, to want to be the head of the business, to want to be a manager, to be that person in that place of power, to purposely use that power for good, to go out of their way to be good, to go out of their way to be inclusive. You know, like in a way, that's how things change. Imagine Michael Bloomberg, except it's Bernie Sanders with a couple fucking $1 billion, right? You know what I mean? Imagine Bernie Sanders with $2 billion. And you don't have to like the dude. I'm not saying that, but you can't tell me that dude with $2 billion wouldn't do some badass crazy stuff that would be like, I'm sorry, he paid how much tuition? You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. And because the fact that the game of making money has seemed so dirty, good people feel like they just can't be in it. But really, they need to be in it and show that they can be in it and be power and have money and do it in ways that are ethical and equitable. And to show that as a president, so that when people say, well, that's the only way to get power, and you can be like, well, actually, no, XYZ got the power, got money, and was a good person the whole damn time. So that's an excuse. Huh? Keep warm, burn out the rich, eat your boss. I would be down for that tag. Eat your boss and the rich that put them there. Now, main topic is Wizards of the Coast having the resources to find diversity, but not actually doing it. See you later, Hera Hex. Appreciate you showing up. Ethics are about action. Power expands your realm of action. Thus, self-empowerment is one of the most ethical things you can do, as is empowering those you believe are ethical. Boom. Exactly. To the point. I love it. Like, that's the most ethical thing you can do, is to gain power in a good, healthy way and use it to empower those around you. Like Patamali would agree with that, so, you know. I just don't know, man. The whole thing is a bucket of crabs. The people who are most willing to push people down are the ones who are going to end up in power. Nah, those are the people who have gotten there the easiest, because, like, people... So here's the thing. People only remember the examples of power being used bad, but people do not always take to heart when things are good, because we always want to take those people as exceptions. And I say that because people say the same thing about me every fucking day, about, well, you're an exception, Sortall exception. It's like, nah, bro. I'm the dude who was groomed to be your manager, your project manager, all that shit. And I got the lessons, and I was like, but you're using it to be a dick. What if I don't want to be a dick? And they're like, well, this is how we do it. I'm like, cool, well, I'm not going to do it that way. And I left and did my own shit. Now I take the things that I taught, the way I was taught to do business, and I go, cool, I'm going to just leave out all the toxic masculinity and all the transphobia and all the sexism, and I'm just going to figure out how to use this and be like, cool, I'm going to sell you cool stuff and not gaslight you. And boom, like, that's how I'm here. Like, that's how I got here. Like, that's how I managed to somehow, like, build 10K followers and shit. Because I take these tactics and I just remove the asshattery. And like, it sounds easy because it kind of is easy, because you realize very quickly that all the excuses about why something has to be like that is an excuse. They say that to justify it for themselves so that they can feel bad. They can feel better about it. Like, well, no, I'm not a dick because I chose to be a dick. This is just what it takes to be a power. No, man. You took the easy way out. You took the path of least resistance. Sure, maybe it would have taken you an extra month to get there the good way, but you wanted it now. And that's the thing, like, people don't want to recognize that. Like, the good road sometimes is a slower road, but that's what it takes to be equitable. There's not, I mean, I push back that wholly. Like, it's not. It's just always, and if anything, right, it's not the power. It's that those people are pushy and that other people let themselves be pushed. And that's the biggest reason why I love saying no, and that's why people see me as fierce. Because once I realized that the power was in making me not exercise my own agency, I was like, well, no, you're not gonna bowl over me. You can do what you want to do. I can't stop that, but you can't sit there and pretend like I was okay with it. And that hits different. That hits wholly different. You know, it's the accountability part. Can I eat my boss's boss instead? I mean, if it's more nutritious. Because my boss is a phenomenal person. Yeah, eat your boss's boss. We can just say eat your boss, but then like say it next to your boss. To them, like, let's eat your boss. We call that solidarity. There's something to be said about how at a certain income level, sociopathy begins to take hold of someone's perspective, but agree that we definitely need better people in power before things get better. But is it though? Because I've seen the study and it's not true. You know that, right? Like, the assumption that people are more mean and more cool at higher income levels, like, we have sociological research that that's not true. People are actually more insecure at higher income levels. But what happens is the numbers start to fall. And everybody wants to look at it as, well, rich people. Like, bro, some of the meanest people in my life to me have been poor as fuck. Like, money doesn't make you be an asshole. Money just lets you get away with being an asshole. And that's the difference. And once again, that's because we let certain shit go when it pays off for us. Everybody has a price. We say that for a reason. And the second you realize you have enough money to pay whatever price you want, it becomes a game of who's stronger, my money or your willpower. AOC is a pretty solid example, I guess. I mean, but like I said, everybody takes that as an example. Like John Lewis, he's only been up there for how many years? March for King, and you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love AOC, but once again, it's selective. People want to forget all the people that do good, because when you do good, you're invisible. If you're a good politician, you're never gonna have your name heard. Why? Because you did your fucking job. And that's the trap. If you do your fucking job and you do it good, most people aren't gonna hear about you because you did your job. So there's a lot of like false equivalency going on. It's the same problem that America had about 10 years ago when it came down to cracking down crime, right? Because you know what happens when you crack down on crime? Your crime stats go up. Why? Because you report higher arrests, because that's what you do, right? You crack down on crime, so the arrests go up because you're arresting those people, which means your stats go up. So you had this issue, especially in the Midwest, where you had these counties that were flipping the fuck out because they're like, our crime rate's going up. And I was like, well, yeah, you decided to go to places where you knew there was crime and you arrested those people, so your arrest stats are going to be higher. But then all the populace saw was, oh, the rate of all these crimes going up. What's happening in our city? And they're like, but we're keeping it safe. Like that's how you know it's safe. Like we caught them. Like we caught the robbers. Like that's why it's higher because we caught them. People are like, oh my god, you gotta get the stats down. You gotta get the stats down. And it's just that kind of shit. Like that sort of causality gets people, you know, even though we have tons of cases against it. Man, even though tons of cases of people in power being good, people of having money good. We have tons of cases of poor people being bad, people with no power being bad, but we still like to ride that same. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just the trap that we've told ourselves, and in essence, it's a lie that we kind of get sold to that like we repeat. And I'm 35 because black don't crack. Thanks for the follow, Ingle Mouse. Yeah, I needed to hear that. You're welcome, Fatal. Came in with the truth bombs. What's up, Scraticus? You know how I would do. Saying stuff like to my old bosses is one of the reasons I'm not a favorite person. Saw some interesting articles stating basically that Zoomers and younger millennials in the US have never really been through good times since it's been 9/11 early on for them, and then everything downhill. Yeah, they've pretty much always had national crises, but like that's also like really selective. That's once again the like #_white, because if you're black in America, you've always been going through stuff. Just white people who suddenly have realized that they have stuff going. So like I said, there's a whole bunch of cherry picking when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So I feel like we just need to drop that shit and stop trying to like look to this stuff and just be like, hey, like let's be better where we are and just worry about that shit. Like be the best you can be in your own fucking back. If everyone did that, good. I don't know if that's why there's so much anger toward middle class, upper class, and lack of idealism regarding money. No, it's just been that way for a long time. Like with that, like the idea of money being that way has been grounded into people for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. Like it's nothing new. We just have a digital age that just spreads it differently. It spreads it quicker. People are less likely to fact check something now, even though it's easier to fact check something. There's a lot of personal responsibility that people are not taking care of. Doing things right is a grind, and it's not linear. You make mistakes, but living by your moral compass is so rewarding before you take external influence into account. Exactly. Eat your boss who was a jerk. Eat jerk bosses. I don't know if they're more mean or cruel, but they're certainly more out of touch. But that's what I'm saying about the perspective. Out of touch with who? Like, what is out of touch? Like, what does out of touch mean? Like, out of touch is a perspective. That means out of touch with where I am. Are they out of touch or are we out of touch? Right? We say they're out of touch because of numbers, but you also have to respect the fact that money changes your life whether you like it or not, right? If you make $200,000 a year, your life cannot and will not be like your friend who makes $20,000 a year. It doesn't matter how much you try, your life will not and cannot be the same, because the way money works in our country, you cannot just have money and just sit on it, right? That's the thing that people forget about. You cannot just have 200 G's in your bank liquid. Taxman will fuck you up. You cannot. So literally, the way our system has worked, if you have money, you are obligated to watch your money and keep track of your money, because the taxman will come for your money. And because things are weighted in such a way, because people way up on the ladder in terms of richness have wanted relief, they push it down on the lower rungs of richness, right? Which is how you get this middle class sort of war, right? Because they're facing tax breaks that are technically really out of whack with how the scale works, right? So instead of being like, oh, this whole system needs to work, it becomes, oh, I got to defend what's mine. And it starts like its own sort of class warfare. But money changes your life. Having access to stuff changes your life. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like, so that's why I don't like when we say that. It's a lack of perspective, because America's out of touch with stuff. Like, we're out of touch with a country that has less than us, you know. But it's about perspective. And what we're really mad about is that rich people don't act like us. And really, what we're saying is like, we wish we had money like them. That's a totally separate argument. And it's more of a value argument, when really the issue isn't even that. The issue is the stuff that's happened on systemically, right? Because does it really matter if they're rich, as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do for society? The issue, right, is that they're exploiting holes in the system that we've let be there because we also want some of that money. You know what I mean? Like, literally today, if we all wanted to, we could decide, fuck all the senators who backed Citizens United. Recall all of them. A lot of us work in states that we can do that. But so there's a lot of that stuff where there's some perspectives that we have to check in terms of how we say stuff, because things are going to be different whether you like it or not. Being poor, being middle, being like overabundant changes your perspective, and there's nothing you can do about it. In fact, you have to. You cannot play around with $200,000 like you did when you had 2,000. It's different. It's just different. And really the problem is that we just realize that there's things that are being exploited because we've let money decide everything. That's on everybody. Honestly. Not necessarily mean cruel, means sociopathy in more of a textbook sense, which could definitely give inclination towards cruelty. But also then you have to check and be like, once again, causality, because there's nothing wrong with sociopathy. What you're really talking about is that industries where being a sociopath is a bonus are ones that pay a lot of money, because you know what you're talking about? Lawyers, doctors. And it's not a bad thing. You don't want someone to be empathetic when they're knee deep in your chest. You need them to be impartial, right? So in a way, we pay more money for that, because being a functioning person who also is like removed from empathy is a skill, and we reward that. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff that is more causality than anything else, because we like to take certain things and describe them like that. We have to be careful when it comes to something like sociopathy, because it's more philosophical than it is physical. You know what I mean? Fucking people don't understand stats, bro. Like never ever. That follows the can't have coronavirus if we don't test for coronavirus, and you're thinking, yep. Because and this is a problem that has become almost distinctly American, because we are obsessed with stats to the point where just the sight of numbers on a graph makes things happen to us, even if we don't understand what they mean. It's wild what a graph will do to people. It's wild. You know me, I preach it. Eat assholes. Wait, that's kinky. Hey. There was a parody thing about the Steakum Twitter account, and people were retweeting it like it was true when the damn account name had parody in the name. Yeah. And then like they fight over it when you're like, bro, that's a parody account. They're like, well, I still like. It's like, bro, shut up. Boss Eater sounds like a fun title for a game. Eat Your Boss Simulator. Yeah, America's super out of touch. Super out of touch. I mean, but it's not lacking. It's on purpose. I just want to make it clear that this stuff is very much on purpose. It's not an accident. They very much do what we learn, because that lets us be manipulated. Information is power. We say that for a reason. So the less people know, the easier it is to use it against them. And America has figured that out. Not just America, but like powerful people, like rich people. Like they're like, hey, you don't need to believe in this, because that would get you ideas on realizing we're screwing you over. So we'll change that. We're just going to change the slaves to migrant workers, because that sounds nicer. And then what happens, instead of everybody going, whoa, that's stupid, like people go, well, I mean, wouldn't it be more positive? Like, why are you arguing this? Like, you know what they're trying to do. And they're like, well, what if they already printed the books? And it's people won't just snap to it and just stomp that shit out and be like, this is a terrible idea. Like, they always want to sit there and pontificate about it. Like, some shit you don't think about, man. If someone says, here, give me your hand, and they put a pile of poo in your hand, you don't sit there and go, well, I wonder why they put this poo in my hand. Is it even poo? Did I lick it? And you're just like, bro, just stop. Just put it down. Just stop. Just stop. What up, HTT Paladin? How's it going? Fucking weird, because for all of us, our love of stats and numbers, we don't know how to fucking use them. That's the truth. It just lights up our brain. We're like, shiny stats. You have to work hard to remain this ignorant in an information age. But people do, though. The amount of times I had to challenge people to actually look up an article after I brought it up is astounding. I'm always like, look it up. And they're like, well, I'm like, well, just look it up. Well, look it up. Well, it's definitely one of those things where since we know that information is at our fingertips, we also know that if we don't look it up, then we won't have to have our minds changed. And then we don't have to feel bad about it. So I'll just not look this up and I won't have to confirm when I know what's going on. Tell me I'm wrong. Either those who have traveled or those who are first generation here. True, there's a very internalized nationalistic message in the U.S. Uplift the U.S. Demonize everyone else. Oh yeah. Well, like I said, it's we need to be careful because it's not it's not the U.S. that is the world, because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and like America has this fucked up shit, but in a weird way, people are so obsessed now with being like, look how America bad is, and we're not that, like, we're letting certain shit go on, like we're gonna pretend like Boris Johnson shit isn't going on in the UK, or that like China's not out here being fucking terrible to black people in this country, or buying a fuck ton of shit in Africa. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of fucked up shit going on. So like that's why I'm like, can we just take care of our own houses? Because there's a lot of us. So if we start taking care of our own neighborhoods, shit gets done real quick. I'm gonna need everybody who lives in Kentucky to vote Mitch McConnell the fuck out, please. That shit makes me want to fucking move to Kentucky at this point. No. Good. Dealing with more issues with peeps using the word Orient, bro. That shit. I don't know why people just can't throw that fucking word away and just be done with it. People don't challenge the right to keep their children in there. Yeah, right? They're like, no, but I don't want them to know the truth. It'll be easier that way. The thing is, people literally don't understand numbers. My favorite example is always that A&W used to have a third pound burger to combat McDonald's quarter pounder. I can see it too. I don't have to question it. Oh god. I was saying A&W is not really a thing because their food's pretty mediocre, but I can tell you're wrong when you're painfully right. Yep, ignorance is bliss to people who don't want to be proven wrong / don't care about anything that they think affects them. Please, for the love of God, vote Mitch McConnell. The US a lot more than anywhere else in the West. There's fucked up shit going for sure. Tries a sack of shit. And once again, it's about perspective, man. Like, it's about perspective. Like, people say that based on where you are. Like, ask some people from Africa how they feel about it. Like, for some people, America's just the dumb cousin who messes up shit. Like, it's all about perspective. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, people need to stop being so invested in trying to say someone is worse than another. Like, just fucking fix what's at your house. Like, yes, the US is bad, but you know what? I have a more likelihood of having bad shit happen to me being black outside of the US than other places. So, like, that kind of shit bothers me. And that kind of, there's a whole fucking blogs dedicated to black Americans trying to figure out where the fuck we can go. So, like, I want to retire that shit. There's a whole bunch of shit that's fucked up. And if everyone can stop taking time to be like, you're being worse than me, maybe we get somewhere. Everybody's fucked up right now. So let's just take care of the shit where you are. Like, take care of what you have. Like, not offense, but I'm kind of tired of like the cross politics. It's like people can vote where they can vote, but they're not even doing that. Like, spend more time getting the people around you to get on board with fixing shit instead of being like, well, this is worse than that, because I'm over it. I'm over it on 98 fucking levels, because we're at the point where like I'm having to live through the same shit that my parents talked about, that my grandparents talked about, and I ain't having it. I ain't having it. Not having it. You know what I mean? Like, so like, this is what I say about perspective, because people say this to me, but like people forget that like black folks talk. And when shit starts happening across the world, all of a sudden like you start getting to where like UK black folks are talking to US black folks, because guess what? White people being crazy ridiculous across the board. Like, you know what I mean? So like, that's a thing. Like, this is like, you know, all right, bro. It's like I said, everyone is really invested in saying one person's better than the other, bro. But like, it's not. Like, once again, it's a very white perspective, because I can tell you, like, as a black dude, the US is probably one of the places I feel the safest in, regardless of how fucked up it is, because I know how to navigate this shit. And there's certain shit we'll talk about. We'll talk about racism out loud, right? But like, Like I said, like I would take the time to look and realize that it's all about perspective, because depending on who you are and depending on what like culture you're from, that shit is not that easy just to apply like that. It's not. Very much not. How you doing, Paladin? What you been up to? Feel like I haven't seen you in a minute. But I call food and rugs oriental. Why not people? What drives me crazy is we have this whole big, huge lexicon of words, and yet people spend so much time getting stuck on these few terrible, shitty words. It's like, why would you continue to use orient knowing that at this point it's going to give you flack when you can just, I don't know, use a different fucking word? Like, all that effort to defend a word that doesn't matter. You can use another word, like, right? Like, if you weren't trying to be racist, then literally you meant to use something else because the people you're trying to talk about was like, bro, we don't like that. So you're like, cool, what's the proper word? Boom, done. That's it. You go home, catch your checks. But instead, like, they'll sit there and defend it. Like, well, you're like, why? Why? Like I said, people just need to start like taking the L and realize that it takes less effort just to like move on and figure out the better way to do it instead of defending the weird ass way they want. Especially when it comes to stuff about culture. Like hearing like just like watching like people that I know who actually like are of that culture and having like white people argue with them about why they can use Orient was just like, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I can't even hop in this conversation because like it's them, but I'm just like, you right now need to calm the fuck down. Like, you, what are you doing? Just pick something else. Pick something else. Taking a step further, Oriental is a term coined by Europeans to help make the brochure of Asia by highlighting women and goods. See, that's like even like 80 times worse. It's like literally tokenization of it. Blatant tokenization of it. Because they always used it with like the trains, and like actually I can actually know the imagery in my head just from the Orient. And yep. Gross. That's gross. So lay on everybody, HTT Paladin, what they should be staying instead of that terrible gross word, so that there's no more excuses. Because I want that whole discussion to end, because I don't even understand what that. Every time I see someone say an Orient game, I'm like, how old are you? 60? Like, what the fuck? Like, I learned that shit when I was a kid, and that was like, oh yeah, we install Orient anymore because it's bad. I'm like, cool. I'm like, what other word are we gonna use? And it was like X. Cool, done. That's it. I'm like, thanks for the follow, Stoic Asha Greyjoy. I want to hear a better word for Orient, and then we're gonna end the stream because I want to eat. Project now. I understand that one, Paladin. Which I was actually about to hit you up here for some other beat related stuff here not too long. There really is a weird romanticization behind certain words. It's the same Confederate BS, bro. Like the Confederacy. It's like cool. And I didn't realize you identified as a loser. Good to know. I like that. It's like, yeah, like the answer to what is the word for Orient, there is none. There's a whole bunch of different fucking cultures. Maybe don't try to make up a whole word to personify a whole group of people. Come up with something cool sounding. I mean, it's taken, but swordsfall is a cool word. It kind of doesn't have anything to do with cultural relevance, but just saying. Not like we couldn't just make up new words that have nothing to do with stereotypes. This is why like people need to embrace slang, because we make up words, and that's what we do. I agree. I was super glad when I came up with it. I was like, I hope this isn't taken, and I was like, yes. And I'm filled with envy and how strong it is. I'm not gonna lie, I really did sit there and think about it. I thought about it a long time, And it's not just a word; it comes from more too. I made sure it was like the whole package. Simple process. If you care about people, when they come from a good faith place and ask you not to say something, not to Karen stuff, fuck Karen, you stop. Simple. I used to say dumb, stupid, idiotic for whatever. A friend asked me to stop because of the very racist history behind IQ tests and such. I stopped. There's not a lot more to it. I care about them more than I care about these words. Agreed. Thanks for this kind of stream, man. A couple of the members in the band are non-binary and delve into various TTRPGs and really want to improve the community. Awesome. I'm glad. I love to see that kind of stuff, you know? And for me, that's been the fun thing about Sourcefall is because I've gotten to really understand more about people. Like, you know, I've had like a few like non-binary people in my life, but until Twitter, like that was the most number of like NB people I've met in my life. So I was like, oh man, that was great. So I got to meet like personality styles and understand more about like people and what people like and don't like. And that's kind of why I just say like the only way to understand a culture is to immerse yourself in the culture. Like you can't understand it from the outside. And even then, you can be around people all day. You won't get the whole picture, but shit, you'll know more than you did when you're sitting on the outside trying to judge. So I try to crawl into the same pool that everybody I know is in to really get a sense of what's up. And now I'm not gonna get the whole deal, but at least I got more than what I did before. Well, yeah, anyway, that's my message. That's the end. The whole thing is don't put race in your game because it's bullshit. Individual conflict is good. Racism is lazy. When you put racism in your game because racism is ignorance and saying that whole group is ignorant, you're essentially saying your whole group of people is stupid. And do you really want that? I don't think you want that. So don't do it. Orient's a bad word. It's terrible. There's like a whole bunch of different cultures in there. So maybe you should either say them individually or just come up with a cool ass name. Swordsfall's taken. I hear Spear Rise is going on somewhere. I don't know. Some of the cool stuff. Immerse yourself in culture. All the culture. And like, not the parts that you just want. Read the whole thing. Read a whole book. Read a couple of books. Watch some podcasts. Watch some stuff. Like, people always ask me, like, well, how can I get into black culture? I'm like, you have Netflix, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, have you seen Dear White People? They're like, oh, no, I haven't. Oh, but you've heard of it. Yeah. Any final things I need to shout out? Hammer fall, gun jump, dagger side, bullet hustle. All of these are better words than Orient. I'm all about these. There you go, HTT Paladin. You need to start a thread now of like better words than Orient just to shame them. Theorize the name of a Swordsfall story on fanfiction by 2021. I'm all about it. That's my favorite one, Javelin Boogaloo. I guess I should drop some links and actually be like capital viewership. Your man's got books and stuff that's being sold that you might like to buy because, you know, reading's fundamental and they're kind of awesome. I might be biased because I'm the author, but I don't think you should hold that against me. Oh, so AR-14 jazz hands. So yeah, buy the Bank Heist. You're legally required if you came to the stream to own a copy of Bank Heist now. Sorry, that's the rules. Yeah. So in the stream, we're gonna find someone to raid. I might stream this weekend. I don't know. We'll see. I got a bunch of stuff to catch up on because I'm behind. And check out swordsfall.com if you have not, because the website is awesome. I have one of the best websites in the game. Also hashtag bias, but it's the truth. You can catch me on Twitter with all the shenanigans at swordsfall1. Also, I got some other stuff. You know, I'm on like Pinterest. Follow me there. I'd like to see more people on Pinterest. It's like pinterest.com/swordsfall. Honestly, you go to any social media, you type in Swordsfall, you're gonna find it. If you can't find it in Swordsfall, type in Swordsfall RPG. But 99.99% of the time, it's gonna be Swordsfall. I challenge people to Google me in case they think I'm playing, and they're like, "Oh shit, you're everywhere," and I'm like, "Yup." Made sure of that one. Let's see how I felt about some. See, I hate when Twitch does that. It says that someone's streaming and then you go to their site and it's like suddenly not streaming. You lied to me. Oh snap! Megaron's playing. Is he playing? I was about to be like, if Megaron was playing Mega Man, that'd be meta as fuck. Cool. All right, y'all. I appreciate coming to the stream as always. The VOD will be on it, whenever it does its thing. Yeah, I think I did everything I was supposed to this time. Buy books, go to the website, go to the stuff, holler at people. Shout out to my mons, Anno and Emily as always. When we go in here to holler at Mega Ran, throw up a Swordsfall raid. I'm trying to get Mega Ran to do music for this like Swordsfall anime, so social support. I want to be like, hey, yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming along. I appreciate it. He's the whole shit at DVR. I told you I'm everything, bro. I went out of my way. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Don't be racist. Bye. Yeah, because it's like the second I hit in raid, like that's it.
Gauntlet mode expert? I don't think I can do that. Hey, Swordsfall with the raid! Hold on, gotta rename my game now.
You just did it like it did. He plays and he can't.
I kept thinking, is it Dunkalures with a Z? I just couldn't even figure it out.